Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the move of what if Deku remembered his past life? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The weather was cold. It was the peak of the snowy season. The first day of February. A week before Ju Tomioka's 25th birthday. Sanemi was lighting a fire. His physique was also weakening, but not to the same drastic extent as Ju's. After all, he was 9 months younger, so he had at the most 9 months more left to live. 9 more months he'd have to spend entirely alone. Well, not entirely alone. Nezuko just wrote back, Sanemi said, voice strained. They'll be here in a few days. That's good to hear, Ju replied before breaking into a coughing fit. In an instant, Sanemi was at his side, trying to support him. When the coughing subsided, the former wind pillar wasted no time piling on top of him every single blanket they possessed. Once he was done, Ju was almost completely buried. Warm enough? Sanemi asked. Ju weakly nodded in return. Sanemi sat down beside him. Maybe this is all just stupid ruse. You'll be fine, we'll grow old. No stupid curse, no stupid mark dash. You know that's not going to happen, Sanemi, Ju said. He wanted to believe Sanemi's ramblings, or even simply indulge them. But there was no denying the sudden frailty in their bodies, withered beyond recognition. Sanemi struggled with daily tasks, and Ju couldn't hold anything heavier than chopsticks. Sanemi hung his head. I don't think I'm ready to lose you two. Ju smiled a little. I thought I was supposed to be the sappy one. Sanemi didn't respond. Do you think this is how it happened back in the old days? Sanemi asked after a moment. You'd grow weaker and weaker until your body just gives out? I kind of figured you'd just drop dead one day and that's it. Ju pondered it for a moment. Maybe because they kept fighting continuously, so the curse of the mark affected them faster. We got our marks only a little before we defeated Muzan, so the curse didn't move as fast. Could be. They were silent for a moment. The logs crackled in the fire and they basked in its warmth. What are you going to do after I dash? Let's not talk about that, Sanemi interjected. I'd rather not think about that yet. Oh, sorry. Ju rested his head on Sanemi's shoulder. More silence followed. There was a lot of silence these days, with Ju too tired to speak a lot of the time. They found that this didn't bother them much. Silence portrayed their emotions quite well. So much had happened since the defeat of Muzan. The two of them remained together afterwards, as pillars of support in their times of grieving. Previous walls of animosity fell away. There was no more room or energy to devote to bickering, especially since there was so little time left for them. There was a special kind of understanding between them, a silent acknowledgement of the other's pain. They found comfort in each other. They loved each other. If you could change one thing that happened in your life, what would it be? Sanemi asked after a moment of silence. I guess we should list out our regrets, so we don't die with them weighing us down, Sanemi said. His eyes seemed a bit misty. Genya? Sanemi nodded, his shoulders tensing. I wish I was a better big brother to him. I was horrible to him because I wanted to push him away from harm. I wanted him to be safe, but he went and died anyway. If I could go back, I would have shown him how I really feel a lot sooner. Ju listened. He could hear the regret dripping from Sanemi's voice. There wasn't a day that went by without Sanemi mourning his little brother. Sometimes, it was the face he made after eating watermelon. Sometimes, it was the soft clipping of scissors against the branches of a bonsai. On the nights he had nightmares, Sanemi would fish out Genya's old yukata and hug it, lamenting that he never treated his brother with this kindness in life. I wish, Ju started, I wish I could have been stronger, so that Sabito and I could have both lived. I wouldn't die in his place. Sabito would not be happy about that, but I wouldn't let him die either. He was stronger than me. Maybe if he lived as well, we could have defeated Muzan faster, and less people would have died. Ju talked about Sabito a lot, Sanemi noticed. They had been best friends, more than best friends, a bond indescribable by words, before Sabito's untimely death. Ju blamed himself for it to a certain extent. He still wore modifications of Sabito's kimono pattern in his clothing. He visited his old training grounds, often a look of nostalgia on his face. After Sakanji passed away from old age, Ju buried his ashes next to Sabito's makeshift tombstone, keeping his family close by. Well, maybe in our next life Sanemi started. Maybe in our next life, we'll do everything right, Ju finished. The conversation ended there. Ju continued to lean against Sanemi's side, eventually being lulled to sleep by the crackling of the fire. Sanemi carried him over to the futon and laid him down while he went about cooking soup. Sanemi had long since accepted that he was going to die young. But, for some reason, the fact that Ju was going to die before him never truly sunk in until now. Even when they were pillars, Ju seemed like the guy who would manage to scrape by until retirement. And scrape by he did. They both did. Only now, neither of them would enjoy a long life. Ju woke up after a few hours. Sanemi fed him soup. They cuddled together for warmth. Sanemi was going to miss this. He didn't just think he wasn't ready to lose Ju yet. He knew he wasn't ready to lose Ju yet. Nemi, Ju mumbled, nuzzling closer. Yeah. I know you said you didn't want to think about this yet, but, Ju paused, don't do anything stupid after I die. I want you to live your full life. Okay. One final promise he could give to Ju, sealed with a kiss. Nezuko and Tanjiro visited the next day. Zenitsu and Inosuke elected not to come along, knowing Ju was closer to the Kamadu siblings than he was to them. It was quiet. They spent the next 4 days together, with Tanjiro and Nezuko sleeping in the spare room. On the fourth night, Ju woke up in the middle of the night and quietly left the house. In the morning, when Sanemi and the Kamadu siblings noticed he was gone, they knew immediately where he went. They found his body in the forest, kneeling in front of Sakanji and Sabito's graves. He had used the last of his strength to drag himself there. Ju Tomioka died on the 7th of February, 1 day before he was to turn 25. What will you do now? Tanjiro asked with hesitance after the cremation and burial were done. Sanemi was silent for a moment. Travel, I guess, he finally said. You can't, Nezuko protested. Not in your condition. You're welcome to stay with us, you know, Tanjiro offered. We've always got room for one more. Maybe later, Sanemi said. But I guess I want to see the sights first. The demons are gone thanks to us. I guess I want to see what our hard work has culminated in. The Kamadu siblings exchanged glances before silently agreeing. They helped Sanemi pack up his minimal belongings and made him promise to write. If you get sick, send us a crow or letter and one of us will take care of you, Nezuko said, her tone strict. Don't worry, I will, Sanemi said, hoping he got across the exasperation he was trying to portray. Honestly, you kids worry too much. Not exactly kids anymore, though. Tanjiro would be turning 19 in a few months, and Nezuko had just turned 17. If Tanjiro was also fated to die by the mark, he had over 6 years left. Maybe not kids, but still young. Sanemi kept to his word and traveled. He stuck mostly to cities, the hefty salary left over from his days as a pillar helping fund the hotels he stayed at. He couldn't travel far in his condition. It didn't bother him much, though. He had never spent much time in the industrialized cities, and the glimmering lights enchanted him. People seemed to whisper about him when they saw him. The scars tended to make people wary of him. Some braver strangers asked if he was a war veteran. He said no, because they weren't thinking of the same war. Sanemi figured he looked like an old man with his hollow cheekbones and bony fingers, not to mention the unnaturally white hair. In every city he stopped by, he'd pick out a souvenir to send to the Kamados. At one point, he got a very angry crow from Tengen, demanding to know why he wasn't sending them gifts. After that, Sanemi sent him the dullest thing he could find out of spite before starting to send real gifts. In every city, Sanemi got a pinwheel for himself. He had a connection with wind. He and Genya used to play with pinwheels when they were young. Sanemi used the breath of wind. A windmill became his demon slayer mark. Even now, he felt more like a leaf in the breeze, being carried from location to location without much will of his own. Whenever he saw watermelon, he would buy one, the price not being a bother to him anymore. He always left at least one slice uneaten. It was starting to snow again. October came and went. A month left until Sanemi's 25th birthday. Sanemi was staying in a hotel in Tokyo. The view was nice. As peaceful as he expected it to be. No more demons roaming the night, no more crying children, no more lost families. Sanemi wished Genya got a chance to see all this. He wished he and Ju had traveled together so that he could have seen this. Sanemi coughed and drew his blanket tighter around his shoulders. He couldn't stop shivering. With a pathetically immense amount of effort, he scrawled out a letter to Tanjiro and Nezuko, telling them his location and asking them to come. He attached the letter to his crow's leg and sent it on its way. On the 28th of November, the Kamadu siblings arrived at the hotel and asked about the whereabouts of a man with white hair and many scars. They learned that he had passed away in his sleep the night before, one day before he was to turn 25. With a heavy heart, Tanjiro requested the body be cremated. The siblings lamented that they didn't make it in time. Sanemi Shinazugawa had died alone. At least he is no longer suffering, Tanjiro tried to say as condolences. The two of them journeyed back to the old Demon Slayer headquarters and left the urn of ashes next to Genya's grave, so that the brothers would be together at least in death. Life moves on even when you die. It keeps moving forward. The water continues to flow down the river, running over every stone until nothing is left. Windy storms continue to lift the soil away, eroding it until nothing is left. After Ju and Sanemi die, the world moves on, life moves on. Their loved ones mourn for them, but they move forward with life. But life and death are a seagull, an eternal dance. Every river eventually empties into a greater body of water. Every windstorm finds its peace and dissipates. Change is inevitable. People change, the world changes. One day, a woman gives birth to a child that radiates light. Some are shocked, others call it a miracle. These quirks begin to spread. And spread more. They continue to spread like wildfire. A little over 100 years later, quirks have become the norm. On the 8th of February, a child with bright blue eyes and strands of ebony hair is born in Nogata. He is the second of 2 children. On the 29th of November, a child with starkly white locks and strangely defined eyelashes is born in Chua. He is an only child, but dreams of a little brother. For whatever reason, they remember their past lives. Ju Tomioka was born on February 8th in Nogata. He was the second of 2 children, with his sister Tsako being 5 years older. Their family was well off, and they lived in a big house. Ju was born with memories of a past life. A life where his parents died young from an unpredicted cold season. A life where his sister was killed by demons on her wedding night. A life where he was labeled insane for trying to speak of demons. And that was only the beginning. The memories haunted him in the form of nightmares. For the first year of his life, there wasn't a night Ju could sleep through without waking his parents up with crying. After a while, he began getting used to the dreams, though it would take him several more years to process them. Ju didn't speak for the first 2.5 years of his life. His parents worried and took him to the doctor, but they found nothing wrong. In truth, Ju didn't speak because he was still trying to piece his new life together. He couldn't understand everything with the brain and body of a child. But Ju understood that he had a sword and fought against demons. Something akin to the modern-day hero. No, there was nothing glamorous about it. He saw people get hurt, and, as he began to understand later, die. He remembered there were other people too. An old man he called Urokadaki-sensei. A friend with pink hair and a scar. Subito. A pair of kids he treated like his little siblings, bearing the family name Kamadu. A girl with a teasing smile and an airy laugh, Shinobu. A man with scars and bloodshot eyes, who he spent his final years with, someone by the name of Sanemi. The man he fell in love with. Ju considered asking his sister or his parents if they remembered anything like that. But he kept his mouth shut. He didn't want to risk the possibility of being labeled delusional again. Do you believe in demons? He asked his sister in a roundabout way, as a test, a riddle to figure out how much she knew, if anything. Satako laughed and smiled. Yuchan, there's no such thing as demons. But if there were, you don't need to be afraid. If demons did exist, Nei-san would protect you. She didn't remember. If she did, she wouldn't say they didn't exist. Ju felt very lonely. His right arm hurt a lot. He knew he had lost it when he was fighting demons. Maybe suddenly getting it back was stressful on his body. In this life, Ju became left-handed. At age 4, Ju manifested his quirk when his mother accidentally knocked over a glass of water. The cup almost fell on his head, but Ju did not react to it, standing completely still. After a moment, there was no impact, or the sound of shattering glass as the cup hit the floor. Ju felt a light mist shower over him. He opened one eye, and saw that the glass and the water inside had been reduced to a fine dust. His mother was crying, hugging him tightly and asking if he was all right. Ju nodded a little. His quirk got the name Dead Calm. If Ju enters a state of absolute calmness and activates his quirk, any non-living object that enters a range of 2.5 meters around him could be turned to dust. Dead Calm. Breath of Water, 11th form. The move he invented himself, now twisted and corrupted in the form of a quirk that so much resembled the blood demon arts that were used against him. It wasn't a sword technique anymore, but a part of his old life that latched onto him in an unnatural way. Even so, Ju tried to put his past life behind him. For some miraculous reason, he had been given another chance. He didn't want to waste it. But, as he found, it became increasingly difficult to live in a world where he felt like he didn't belong. His parents chalked it up to him being a shy kid, but, somehow, Satako knew better. "Yuchun," she said when she was 12 and Ju was 7. "You always seem so sad. What's wrong?" Ju was silent. "Nothing," he said eventually. Satako didn't buy it. She didn't want to say that something was wrong with him, because she knew how upset he got when other kids on the playground called him weird. At the same time, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. "Yuchun, look," she decided. "You don't have to tell me right now. But I know you're upset by something. If there is anything I can do to help, please let me know, all right?" Ju was grateful to have Satako as a sister. Even if she didn't fully understand, she at least tried. He hoped she wouldn't die this time. If there was one thing Ju was thankful for in this advanced, quirk-filled society, it was the progression of medicine. When a cold season came and his parents fell ill, doctors were able to save them. They might have never understood him the way Satako did, and they probably never will, but he didn't want them to die. When Ju was 10, Satako was babysitting him and decided to take him to the mall for shopping. Ju let her take him by the hand and lead him along. It felt nice, having the opportunity to be treated as a kid when he didn't have a childhood in his past life. Something caught his eye in one of the shop windows, and he stopped short, his hand slipping out of Satako's. She noticed and stopped as well. "What is it, Yuchan?" Ju was looking at a shirt in the display window. It was in a hexagonal pattern, alternating between 2 shades of green, yellow, and orange in an intricate design. Sabito's old pattern. After some pleading, Satako agreed to buy him the shirt. When he got home, Ju cut a small hole near the collar. He vowed to carry the cut-off piece of fabric with him at all times. That way, if he ever found Sabito, he could show it to him and see if he also remembered. When Ju was 11, his sister came home with the news that she found a boyfriend. She said he was a year older than her and a hero student. Her parents were thrilled and asked her to invite him over for dinner. Satako protested and said they weren't at that stage yet. Ju felt apprehensive. In his last life, Satako died the night before her wedding, when she was a little over 17. That date was fast approaching. Even though this life had been more just and kind so far, there was no telling when it could take a turn for the worse. Satako dated that guy for a few more months before deciding to bring him over. The night before the dinner, Ju crept out of bed and went to her room. "What is it, Yuchan?" she asked sleepily when he tapped her shoulder. "Can I stay with you tonight? Aren't you a bit old for that?" Still, she let him curl up beside her. Ju didn't sleep that night, just keeping a close eye on the bedroom door. If any demon, or anyone at all, tried to hurt his sister this time, he'd protect her. No one came that night. Ju had never been more relieved in either of his lives. Sadako's boyfriend was now a UA graduate. He was Nogata for an internship when he met her, or so he said. Now that he graduated, he became a sidekick at the agency he interned at and moved to Nogata. So, what's this little guy's big plans? He asked at the dinner. Oh, Yu-chan hasn't thought of anything like that, Satako said. It was true. Ju hadn't. He didn't have his parents' interest in business, nor did he particularly like psychology like Satako. His profession, if it could even be called that, in his past life was being a demon slayer. It was all he knew. Well, there's always the hero path, the boyfriend suggested with a hint of arrogance. We could always use fresh hands. Your quirk any good? Ju didn't engage in the conversation after that. He had no interest in a pro-hero career. It was too oversaturated for him, too much spotlight for a job as humble as saving people. It was one of the perks of the demon slayers. No one knew him personally. Still, Ju realized that if he was going to protect his family this time, he needed to get stronger. At age 12, Ju began training. He needed to rebuild his strength to what it was at his prime. He knew all the techniques, he just needed to practice them until they became second nature again. Total concentration breathing, day in, day out. Full body workouts, even his hurt right arm. Satako was there to make sure he didn't overexert himself. If you're not going for a pro-hero career, maybe you could be a gym teacher? She suggested. Or a sports star. Teacher, maybe. Sports star, definitely not. When he turned 13, Ju got permission to begin walking around town by himself. The freedom was nice, since his parents tended to shelter him. As much as having an actual childhood this time around was relaxing, Ju still had over 20 years of memories and experiences. He never truly felt like a child. Ju was walking home from school when he spotted a small shop on a street corner 1 block down from his house. It looked like a wood carving shop. On the display sill, he saw a collection of fox masks. The kind that Urokodaki-sensei used to carve. He quickly texted Satako, saying he might be a bit late. Ju pushed open the door to the shop, glancing around. Wooden carvings lined the shelves, including both masks and figurines. He figured this stuff had long since gone out of fashion. Maybe Urokodaki-sensei remembered. Can I help you? Ju looked up to the counter. The man behind it wasn't Urokodaki-sensei. No, I'm good. Sure, he was disappointed, but Ju tried not to feel too discouraged, wrapping his fingers around the torn cloth in his pocket. If Sabito was alive and if he remembered, maybe he would see this shop, too. Ju stopped by the wood-carving shop every few weeks to browse, and sometimes asking about a pink-haired boy with ghostly eyes the color of lavender. No one matching that description ever showed up at the shop. One day, 4 months after he first saw the wood carvings, Ju was ready to go into the shop after school, but got a text from Satako asking him to come home and help make dinner. On the news that evening, he saw a story about how a teenage boy was kidnapped as he was exiting the wood-carving shop. A local hero found the kidnapper 2 days later, but the boy was already dead. A pink-haired boy with ghostly eyes the color of lavender. He had a scar on his cheek and he was wearing a shirt in that hexagonal green and yellow pattern. Ju didn't leave his room for a week after learning this news. His parents thought he was being paranoid after seeing the news. Satako thought he had been frightened because he owned the same shirt as the kidnapped boy. Ju buried himself under his blanket, quietly crying and hugging the shirt to his chest. Sabito had been alive, and now he wasn't. They had just missed each other. Sabito had gone to the wood-carving shop. Happy coincidence, or did he also remember and was searching for his friend? Once again, Ju had avoided death and Sabito hadn't. He remembered how, in his last days of life, he and Sanemi said they'd do everything right in their next life. So much for that. In a world saturated with heroes, they couldn't save Sabito. The wood-carving shop closed down the following week. Satako married young, when she was still only 20. Ju was 15. He understood that marrying this young was no longer a custom in this society, but his sister seemed happy. While her fiancé, husband now, still seemed arrogant and snobbish, Ju had to acknowledge that he treated Satako well. And if Satako was happy, he could be happy too. More years passed. Ju was still undecided on his direction in life. There were a few times he considered becoming a vigilante, but fighting in it of itself wasn't appealing. He wanted to use this life as a chance to live a peaceful life. I want to move to Tokyo, he told his parents when he was 17. Are you sure? They asked. It's pretty far. Ju shrugged. I'm still not sure what to do with myself. Maybe I'll find something there. Ju moved out after that. He rented a small flat in the center of Tokyo City. To pay for rent, he got a job at a library down his street where he helped shelve books. Ju wasn't happy. He didn't feel like he belonged in this world. To this day, he struggled with technology in the way an elderly person might. His coworkers heckled him when it took him 3 attempts to print out a document. It felt unnatural, like he was a stranger in someone else's story. You know what you need, Satako told him during a video call. A girlfriend. I'm not interested in women. A boyfriend, then? Satako amended. Someone on the same wavelength as you, so that you can understand each other. I'm here for you, of course, but there's only so much I can do. Ju nodded along, not very interested. He doubted anyone could truly understand remembering a past life. Unless they remembered to. Ju had always expected people from his old life to wander into this life, but he never actively sought them out. Ju went about creating his first social media account. Maybe he could try to find someone. They could talk, be there for each other. He searched for Sakanji Urokadaki first. He could use the guidance of his mentor. No results. Ju felt his heart sink. Tanjiro Kamado. No results. Nezuko Kamado. No results. Shinobu Kocho. No results. Ju stared at the screen with desperation. Now that this idea had been seeded in his head, he felt a strange yearning for companionship. He didn't want to be alone again. He tried again. He searched for the man who understood him like no other. Sanemi Shinazugawa. 1 result. Ju breathed out, shocked to finally find success. He clicked on the profile that showed up. The profile showed the Sanemi he remembered so well, from the hair to the eyelashes. The only difference was the lack of scarring on his face. Ju clicked on the box to private message him, but stopped short. Just because Sanemi existed in this world didn't mean he remembered. His parents didn't remember. Satako didn't remember. Ju felt his fingers tremble. He didn't want to get his hopes up. He could test it though. A test would cost him nothing. At worst, Sanemi would be confused and maybe block him on the app. After a moment of hesitation, Ju typed out, "Do you remember?" He hit send. Sanemi Shinazugawa was born on November 29th in Chua. He was the so far at least oldest and only child. His family wasn't rich, but they had enough to get by. Sanemi was born with memories of a past life. A life where his father was horrifically abusive. A life where his mother turned into a demon. A life where his precious little brother called him a murderer. And that was only the beginning. He was scared of the memories, and he tended to lash out violently. All he knew in his past life was pain and fighting, and he fully expected that to carry over here. He couldn't even feel safe around his parents. Because these people were not his parents. He was pretty sure his mother didn't have white hair like him. That had been an oddity in his past life, being born with strange white locks into a family of black hair. His previous mother never grew old enough for her hair to turn gray. This woman, however kind and gentle, was not his mother. His new father was different too. Not as big. He wore funny-looking glasses and he developed perfumes. He didn't seem to understand why Sanemi never wanted to be around him, and his wife would lightly tease him for that. He was a man with a penchant for punny humor who clearly adored his wife and child. Still, Sanemi couldn't help but be afraid of him. Whenever he brought in alcohol, or came home with the faint smell of beer around him, Sanemi did his best to either leave the room or get between him and new mother. The memories haunted him. When he looked into a mirror, Sanemi couldn't recognize himself with his younger face and without the scars. The world seemed too bright now that he could process colors again. The index and middle fingers on his right hand felt stiff and it hurt to move them. Sanemi was scared, angry, and lonely. He didn't understand why he was reborn. Why some higher power decided to shove him back into the body of a child and into the hands of people he did not know. Was this some kind of sick joke? This wasn't his family, this wasn't his life. He just couldn't understand why he was here. That is, until his new mother became pregnant with her second child. You're going to be a big brother, his new mother tried to explain to him, but Sanemi could barely listen. He finally understood why he was born again. Because he was being given a second chance to be a good older brother. His past life's biggest regret was how he treated Genya. Every mean comment he sent his brother's way in his attempt to push him away from danger, only for it all to backfire as Genya died in his arms. Sanemi suddenly remembered one of his last conversations with Ju, that they'd do everything right next time. Well, that opportunity just presented itself to him on a silver platter. This time, he'll do everything right. He'll shower Genya in the love and affection he deserved. When Genya was old enough to understand, Sanemi would apologize for everything. Sanemi's parents didn't understand why Sanemi's demeanor changed so suddenly, but they were overjoyed that their son finally seemed happy. He was enamored with the idea of being a big brother. Sanemi didn't even seem to care when his quirk manifested. While running to the car to help unpack some of the new purchases for the baby, he tripped and fell, scraping his knee. His new father ran over to help, only to be hit with the strong scent of alcohol. He almost tripped himself from the sudden lack of coordination. It was a perfect blend of his new mother's ability to produce wine and his new father's ability to alter scents. It got the name of rare blood. Anyone who caught the scent of Sanemi's blood would experience symptoms of intoxication. Rare blood. The quality that made Sanemi so special in his past life. Now, it was only a small quirk in a world of oddities. He wondered what kind of quirk Genya would have, since there were no more demons to eat. He had that tree blood demon art, right? Maybe he could grow plants or something. When his new parents started buying baby clothes in preparation, Sanemi insisted they go for a watermelon theme. They'll love watermelon, he told them, hugging the giant watermelon pillow he just picked out. Life, however, had other plans. Sanemi was staying at a neighbor's house while his new parents went to the hospital. He could feel the excitement in his bones. In a few days, he'll be able to see his little brother again. It was going to be Genya. It had to be. The dates lined up perfectly, with the 7th of January right around the corner. They'd have everything they ever wanted. Food, clothes, a loving family. Sanemi would be a good big brother this time. He overheard the neighbor on a phone call with who he assumed was his new father. She cried and offered her condolences. Sanemi realized that something very wrong had happened. His new parents came back a few days later, tired, distraught, with no baby brother. Genya's not coming, is he? He softly asked. How did Dash, his new father, started to ask. Sanemi shrugged his shoulders. His nose twitched as he tried not to cry. I overheard you talking with Miss Mume. His new father shook his head. No, I don't think we told you what we were planning on naming him. It's just what I've been calling him in my head. His new mother started crying at that. His new father hugged and tried to console her. Sanemi quietly went to his room and locked himself in. He hugged the watermelon pillow to his chest. That was going to be his first gift to Genya. He was never going to get the chance to give it to him. His new mother knocked on his door an hour later and asked him to open it. When he did, she wrapped him in a hug. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know how excited you were. Sanemi nodded his head a little. He didn't want her to apologize to him. She was the one who lost her child, and Sanemi could only imagine her grief. His new father came too and joined the hug. Maybe these people weren't his original parents. But he could come to see them as family. Over the next 2 months, his new parents began selling and giving away all the toys and clothes they bought. Sanemi held on to the pillow. In his past life, the only thing he had of Genya left was his yukata. This time he had the pillow. That night, Sanemi dreamt of screaming his throat coarse, begging God not to take his little brother away as Genya disintegrated into flecks of dust, murmuring apologies for insignificant and trivial things. But why, in this advanced world with quirks and medicine, why didn't his baby brother get delivered safely? Sanemi became more withdrawn again after that. He wasn't reborn to be given a second chance. The only explanation left was the original one. Whatever higher power there was just wanted to play a sick joke on him. He got into a lot of fights as a kid in school. The unfamiliar, stressful environment paired with the literal years of painful memories caused his anger to flare out of control. This wasn't what humans looked like. The hair, the eyes, the extra limbs, they looked like demons. There was so much he had to unlearn. Learn how to control your kid. He heard his teachers tell his new parents many times. He could feel the disappointment in their gazes, the "we didn't raise you this way" energy radiating off them. Whatever minuscule connection he had built up with them was already starting to fray. They would sit him down in the living room and make him watch cartoon characters say, "Never judge a person by their quirk." He would numbly nod along and try not flinch every time he saw a classmate with horns. Sanemi just wished there was someone who could understand him, someone who could give him company. Genya would have understood. In his past life, he used to be exasperated by Misachika's cheerful smiles and big brother attitude, but now he'd do anything to get his guidance back. He wanted to see Kane so that they could bond over having little siblings. Ju understood him like no one else. Even the Kamadu brats would suffice. When he was 10, Sanemi had grown tired of being alone and misunderstood. There used to be demons. They ate people, but some humans fought against them using special swords. I was one of those people, he told his new parents. He hoped, prayed, they'd at least try to understand. They exchanged concerned glances. His new mother let out a nervous laugh. His new father patted him on the head. "That's quite the vivid imagination you've got, Sanemi." Sanemi didn't try to get them to understand again. Their relationship grew frail once more, fizzling out into nothingness. He realized that it would be impossible to connect to anyone from this life. Vivid imagination, huh? Then why was every memory in such perfect detail? Why did he remember the exact locations of Misachika's scars? Why did he remember the exact pattern of Kane's butterfly clips? Why did he remember the exact shade of Ju's eyes? Why did he remember the exact curves of the Kamado's smiles? Why did he remember the exact words Genya mumbled as he crumbled into dust, voice dipping in and out, gradually weakening and fading away as his eyes shut to the lethargic sensation that came with death? Sanemi didn't want to remember. Not if he was to go through this life entirely alone. Anger was his outlet. At 13, Sanemi joined a quirk-free martial arts school and relearned how to fight. He rebuilt his more muscular frame. He started to practice total concentration breathing again. When he sparred against fellow students, he almost always won. They accused him of cheating, but couldn't prove anything. He spent as much time as he could out of the house. He took long routes home. He stopped to pet every single dog that passed by him. He found a small tacky souvenir shop that sold pinwheels and he bought every single one. Sanemi got into his first altercation with the police when he was 16. And the use of your quirk with no permit dash. That guy was mugging someone. When I tried to step in, he punched me in the face. My quirk activates on its own, there's literally no helping that. Then you shouldn't have interfered, the officer reprimanded him. You should have called for a pro. It took 10 minutes to show up after the incident. They wouldn't have gotten there in time, Sanemi tried to explain, but the officer was having none of it. He was sent home with a bandage on his nose and a fine. His new parents weren't happy. Sanemi packed his belongings and moved out that night. He moved to a different part of Tokyo. The bustling metropolis was even more vibrant than the city he saw in his final months of his past life. He was drawn to the lights and colors. It was so bright, and this time he could actually experience everything in his young, healthy body. He rented a small apartment and started studying to become a math tutor. He got a job at an animal shelter to pay the bills. He fought crime in his free time, got in more trouble with the police. They called him a vigilante. He couldn't trust this world's justice system. Just like in his old life, the system was complacent, lazy. The old government didn't seem to notice literal demons running around. In the old world, the vigilantes that the police despised so much were the ones who stopped the Demon King from rising to power. Life was dull, if the nightmarish memories were discounted. Sanemi got himself a pet rhinoceros beetle and a dog. While his new Shiba puppy wasn't trained in emotional support, its company was helpful beyond measure, especially since Sanemi refused to see a therapist. He cooked ohagi as often as he could and decorated the apartment with pinwheels. He kept the watermelon pillow at his bed. Still, Sanemi felt lonely. The dog and beetle helped, but he was still missing something intrinsically human. He wanted someone to understand. He didn't want to live in the isolation he forced himself into before. The same isolation that got his little brother killed. Sanemi wondered what Genya would think of him now. If he was still somewhere up there in heaven, watching over him in the way Sanemi failed to watch over him. Or did he get reborn too, just not as his brother? Was he searching for him too? He wondered what the others were doing if they were here. What kind of quirks did they have? What were they doing? He wanted to know. He cared about them as much as he didn't like to admit it. Did Ju still love him if he was here, or had he moved on? He checked social media often to see if anyone else reincarnated, but nothing came up. Until a warm summer afternoon when he was 17. He was playing with his puppy when he heard a ping from his phone. He tossed the dog a treat and went to check. Someone had sent him a private message. Ju Tomioka, 3:27 p.m. Do you remember? Ju Tomioka, 3:27 p.m. Do you remember? Sanemi Shinazugawa, 3:29 p.m. When and where? Ju Tomioka, 3:30 p.m. Sorry, what? Sanemi Shinazugawa, 3:31 p.m. When and where do we meet up, idiot? Sanemi Shinazugawa, 3:31 p.m. I mean, you sent me a cryptic message out of nowhere, so I'm assuming you want to meet up. Ju Tomioka, 3:32 p.m. Oh, yeah, I want to meet. Ju Tomioka, 3:32 p.m. You do remember though, right? Sanemi Shinazugawa, 3:33 p.m. Isn't it obvious? Yes, of course I remember. Sanemi Shinazugawa, 3:34 p.m. Assuming you're talking about demons, right? Ju Tomioka, 3:34 p.m. Yes. So, where are you right now? I'm in central Tokyo. Sanemi Shinazugawa, 3:35 p.m. Funny coincidence, so am I. Want to meet right now? Ju Tomioka, 3:35 p.m. Sure. I know a pretty good cafe, let me send you the address. Ju was already there when Sanemi arrived. What more, he had ordered ohagi. Could have gone for something more original, you know? Sanemi grumbled as he pulled up a chair. I thought we should start off on the right foot, Ju explained with a flat expression on his face. Sanemi chuckled. I suppose so. I guess I'll have to take you out for salmon next time. That would be nice. Sanemi took in a moment to take in Ju's appearance. You kept your hair short. Ju ran his hand through the short black locks. I felt more comfortable with this hairstyle. You don't have your scars. Sanemi laughed a little. Not yet anyways. They settled into silence. Have you found anyone else? Sanemi asked after a moment. Ju shook his head. Sabito was there for a moment, but he dashed. Sanemi bowed his head in condolences. Sorry to hear that. Other than that, my parents and sister are the same, but they don't remember anything. Ju didn't miss the look of passing jealousy on Sanemi's face. What about Genya Dash? Sanemi shook his head, cutting him off. Stillborn, he said after a moment. Ju remained silent, not having the words to console him. More silence. Sanemi buried his face in his hands. I thought I was gonna go insane, Ju, he murmured, shoulders shaking. I couldn't understand and my new parents couldn't understand. What kind of sick joke is this? I was so scared I dash. I know, Ju said softly. I felt the same. After a moment, he added, do you want to hang out every once in a while? So that we could talk? Yeah, I'd like that. Sanemi took Ju out to get salmon the next time they met. They talked more, discussed what they were doing in this life. What did you do? After I died, I mean? Ju asked. Traveled, Sanemi said simply. Not much else. Tokyo was nice. It felt nice to finally have someone who understood, much like how they grew to understand each other in the last few years in their past lives. There was a certain comfort in the familiarity, someone they could rant and vent to about the new world they couldn't seem to adjust to. I can't so much as get a paper cut at work without the cops breathing down my neck for illegal quirk use, Sanemi complained. Sounds unfortunate, Ju replied. I still don't really understand technology. Sanemi laughed. You're like an old man, I guess so. These meetings continued for the next 3 months. Should we move in together again? Ju suggested. Can I keep the dog? So long as she doesn't bite. Ju helped Sanemi move into his flat. Satako seemed overjoyed he finally found a boyfriend. Are we still, together? Sanemi asked after Ju ended the video call. Do you still want to be together? Ju asked in return. Yes, of course. Then you already know the answer. Sanemi sat in on the next video call so that Satako could meet her brother's not really new boyfriend. They lived together for the next 3.5 years. Ju continued working at the library, while Sanemi fully transitioned into being a math tutor. He kept doing vigilante work at night, and would often return to the flat covered in bruises and blood. Slowly, the scars that defined him in his past life began reappearing on his skin. I wish you'd stop fighting, Ju told him as he was patching up his wounds one night, the TV softly playing in the background. His nose was plugged to avoid the effects of Sanemi's quirk. I'll stop when the heroes pull themselves together, Sanemi mumbled. They're too complacent. Well, there's no more demons, Ju said, so there isn't much reason for you to keep fighting. Sanemi sighed. I don't think I could do that yet. Fighting's what I know. There's still people to protect, maybe not from demons, but still. Maybe we need therapy, Ju suggested. Have you ever considered that option? Yeah, Sanemi murmured. I'm not gonna do it though. Don't need people telling me I'm crazy. It hurt enough when my new parents did. You told your parents? I tried to. They told me I had a vivid imagination. Have you told your parents? Ju shook his head. I got called mentally ill when I tried to tell people about demons in my past life. I didn't want to risk going through that again. I don't think you're crazy, Sanemi mumbled. Maybe a little stupid sometimes, but not crazy. Ju let out a dry laugh. Thanks. You too. A new story came up on the TV. Breaking news. Villain attack on UA High. Sanemi and Ju jumped up in shock. Ju scrambled for the remote and turned up the volume. Earlier today, a group of criminals that called themselves the League of Villains launched an attack on the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, otherwise known as the USJ. Their goal seemed to be killing All Might, but the first-year hero students of Class 1A were caught in the crossfire. Pro heroes Eraserhead and 13 got injured while trying to protect the students, but both are expected to recover. I know that Eraserhead guy, Sanemi muttered. I met him a few times at night. One of the few heroes who's chill with vigilantes. All Might was able to defeat the strongest villain there, and none of the students were seriously injured. However, the ringleader of the group, Tamura Shigaraki, escaped before he could be captured. The powerful villain known as Nomu has been apprehended. He is capable of regenerating, has extremely high durability dash. You hearing this, Ju? Ju nodded. Regeneration and high durability. Sounds like a demon. Video showed a picture of Nomu being led away in restraints. He looked absolutely terrifying with an exposed brain and a bird beak lined with human teeth. But he's walking in the sunlight, Sanemi muttered. Nezuko had sun immunity. And, for the brief moment he was a demon, so did Tanjiro, Ju retorted. But demons always at least looked sort of human, Sanemi said, running a hand through his hair. This thing dash. And demons are supposed to be gone, Ju said. At least all of them except Dash. I think we need to pay that Yashiro a visit. Yashiro, one of the few good demons. He helped them in the fight against Muzan before retreating somewhere to live the rest of his immortal life alone. The last surviving demon. The next day, Ju and Sanemi began searching for any signs of Yashiro. The one good thing about technology, it made things really easy to find. Look, Ju said after half an hour. Yashiro Yamamoto. An artist known for only painting a single woman by the name of Tamayo. Isn't Tamayo the name of that other demon? Sanemi asked. Ju nodded. But this says he died back and that's over 200 years ago. Did he have next of kin? Ju nodded again. 1 kid per generation. All boys. No mention of any spouses. All of them carried on the same painting legacy. Sanemi grinned as he pieced it together. For someone who lived for so long, you'd think he'd find a better cover story. They managed to track down his address to a small house in Asakusa. They arrived there at night. Sanemi knocked on the door. A moment later, the door swung open and a rifle was pointed directly at them. Sanemi jumped back. What the? You can't just do that. Yashiro lowered the gun. Oh, it's you. How did you find this place? We looked up the address, Ju explained. No, Yashiro shook his head. I used my blood demon art, or its quirk now, I guess, to hide the building. Well, thanks for letting me know it's worn off. We have some questions for you, Sanemi said. Yashiro shrugged and waved for them to come in. Don't get too comfortable. I'm not letting you stay the night. Shichamaru rubbed against his leg. Yashiro pulled up 3 chairs and settled into one, the cat resting on his lap. Sanemi and Ju sat down in the other chairs. So, Yashiro dash. I go by Yugoro these days, Yashiro interrupted Ju. It's a hassle. Have to fake my death every few decades. Either way, you sure didn't seem surprised when 2 people who are supposedly dead turned up on your doorstep, Sanemi said in an accusing tone. I've been around for longer than either of you were born, including your past lives, Yashiro replied. It's reincarnation, simple as that. I've seen others from your Demon Slayer Corps get reborn too. Sometimes with memories, sometimes without. There doesn't seem to be a set pattern. Is there a reason the 2 of us were reborn at the same time? Ju asked. Yashiro shook his head. I'm not an expert, but there doesn't seem to be a set pattern for the order of reincarnation either. Last one before you guys was that butterfly girl. Shinobu Kocho, right? She died about 15 years ago. That would have been when we were children, Ju said forlornly. You're wasting enough of my time, Yashiro said with a scowl. Why are you here? You saw the news about the attack on UA a few days ago, right? Sanemi asked. Yashiro nodded curtly. In that case, I'm going off on a limb and guessing you're here to ask about that Nomu. Sanemi and Ju nodded in unison. Yashiro sighed. No, Nomu is not a demon. I haven't been making any demons. It's just me and Shichamaru. My only intentions are preserving Lady Tamayo's legacy. Indeed, the entire room seemed to be covered wall to wall in portraits of Tamayo in almost every art style conceivable. I will make sure she is remembered, Yashiro said. This time, his voice seemed passive, tired, melancholy. You demon slayers only have an anecdotal book that's largely regarded as fiction. You may be forgotten in the eyes of history, but Lady Tamayo will live on. Admit it, you wouldn't have one without her. Back to the topic at hand, Ju said, if Nomu is not a demon, then what is it? Yashiro leaned forward. I'm probably the only person still alive that was there in person. After all, it's been over 100 years. He paused to collect himself before launching into the story. This isn't in any of your textbooks, because it's the sort of thing the government prefers to keep covered up. When quirks first started appearing, there was a humanitarian crisis. People didn't know what still counted as human. From the chaos arose the most powerful villain of all time. He went by the name of his quirk, All for One. He had the power to take quirks from others and forcibly give them to people. Sometimes, the sheer power of a quirk would be too much for the human body to handle, and they'd morph into something like Nomu. Super strong, super resistant, super obedient. Well, that seems to describe demons pretty well, Sanemi scowled. Fine, most demons, he amended when Yashiro glared at him. How do we know this all-for-one guy isn't a reincarnation of Muzan or something? It's a possibility, Yashiro said. But unlikely. All-for-one is a lot smarter than Muzan ever was. And there's no precedent. I've seen almost every single human reincarnate at least once. No one that died as a demon has been reborn yet, so it might not even be possible. Sanemi fell into a stunned silence. Ju recognized a fearful, terrified look in his eyes. They had to wrap this up quickly. So, what you're saying is that there are more than one Nomu, and that All for One is behind them? Yes, to both of them, Yashiro replied. Based on the news I watched, that Tamura Shigaraki is far too immature to even lead a band of small-time criminals. No, there is someone else pulling the strings there, definitely. I wouldn't put it past All for One to have stolen some type of immortality quirk, so he could definitely still be alive. Ju bid Yashiro goodbye and he and Sanemi left the house. It vanished from view behind them as Yashiro recast his blood demon art. Sanemi, are you dash? No one that died as a demon has been reborn yet, so it might not even be possible, Sanemi echoed Yashiro's words. The meaning dawned on Ju. But, does that mean that mom can't be reborn? Or Genya? My pathetic excuse of a father has a better chance of being reborn than them? What kind of messed up world is this? You don't know that for a fact, Ju tried to console him. Yashiro himself wasn't sure, and there's no way he knew every demon in existence. Sanemi just shook his head in response, and he was silent the whole way home. He only spoke up again when they were home and in bed. Ju, I'm gonna find that All for One, and I'm gonna put an end to him. Even if he's not a reincarnation of Musen, he dash. I know, Ju murmured. But, I'm not letting you walk this path alone anymore. Within a week, with uniforms retailored and Nicaran blades res-melted, the wind and water pillars once again took to the nighttime streets for the first time in over 3 centuries, vowing to keep the innocent people safe from the evils that lurked in the dark. The first time Eraserhead met the wind pillar was 3 years ago. He had just started teaching at UA, and his patrols shifted to being fully nighttime. Less media attention. He was surveying the city from the rooftops, the capture scarf swaying in the wind. That is when he got a call in about a trio of robbers that stole a cash register from a nearby convenience store. He was the closest one to the scene of the crime, so he took it upon himself to take care of the incident. He slipped the goggles over his eyes and jumped off the roof, using his capture scarf to swing between telephone poles. He found the criminals in 2 minutes. But someone else found them before him. Eraserhead saw all 3 criminals as described by the call-in lying on the ground, unconscious. A boy who looked to be in his late teens was the only still standing. He had starkly white hair, and the top button of his button-up was undone. Blood stained his swollen lip. Eraserhead was quick to activate his quirk, nullifying whatever this boy could throw at him. By now, the boy noticed he was no longer alone and looked ready to bolt. But Eraserhead was quick to ensnare him in the capture scarf. They're the thieves, not me, the boy said, slightly tilting his head in direction of the criminals. His dialect sounded weird. It wasn't one Eraserhead had ever heard before. I'm well aware, Eraserhead responded. Why you are here is another question. They were stealing and I stopped them, the boy said nonchalantly. Now can I ask you why you aren't getting drunk? So that's what his quirk does? As I can see, you are nothing without your quirk. Vigilantism is illegal, so you have no business being here. So just stand by and do nothing? The boy drawled out, a biting anger piercing through his voice. Isn't heroism all about intervening? Well, I've got to run before the cops show up. We tend to not get along. With unexpected force, he spread his arms out, forcing the capture scarf open. He ducked out through the opening and slid out in between Eraserhead's legs. He rolled to his feet and sprinted away before Eraserhead could catch him. So, his assessment was wrong. This boy very much knew how to fight without his quirk. They met again a month later. This time, he beat Eraserhead to stopping a kidnapping. There, Eraserhead heard the boy say as he handed the crying girl a tissue, ignoring his own blood-covered chin. Try not to breathe through your nose. My quirk causes anyone who smells my blood to become drunk. Eraserhead activated his quirk and said, Don't worry about that. Oh, it's you, the boy scowled. The police will be here soon, Eraserhead said, ignoring the boy in favor of tying up the knocked-out kidnapper. In that case, I'm getting out of here, the boy said, making a move to leave. However, he stopped when the girl sobbed and clung to his arm. He sighed. Fine, I'll stay a little longer. He sat down on the curb and patted the girl on the head. Eraserhead finished securing the kidnapper and joined them, still nullifying the boy's quirk. You'll need to get that injury checked out, he told the boy. I'll be fine, the boy said, not interested. You don't look old enough to be living by yourself. You got a name? For your information, I've been by myself for over a year. Got a roommate recently, but I've been out of contact with my new parents. As for my name, I guess people call me the Wind Pillar. A code name of sorts. But wind? How did it connect to him? And what did he mean by new parents? I'm still scramming before the police get here, just so you know, the Wind Pillar said. I have no interest in your heroism versus vigilantes debacle. Eraserhead sighed. It was true that this kid broke the law by fighting crime and injuring someone without a proper license, but he did help, didn't he? The girl seemed attached to him, so he must have been kind to her. His heart was in the right place, no doubt. However irrational it may be. Then go, he said. The Wind Pillar looked at him in surprise. The pro-hero Eraserhead stopped the kidnapper. Don't get caught. The Wind Pillar said nothing, simply getting to his feet and patting the girl's head one more time before running off. More accidental meetings were peppered in over the next 3 years. The Wind Pillar's face, chest, and arms became littered in scars from his fights. Well, when your quirk only activates when you get hurt, it's bound to happen. He would wave it off flippantly. Naturally, I learned how to fight so I wouldn't have to resort to being beaten to a pulp. It would be near impossible to make it as a hero with a quirk like that. Is that why you didn't seek that job out? The Wind Pillar laughed. No, there's just too many hoops to jump through. This whole society puts too much emphasis on the flashiness, if you ask me. I suppose we could agree on that. The Wind Pillar seemed to have almost superhuman strength. He ran faster, punched harder, and took more blows than most people, even among the pros. Though it couldn't be compared to people with strength-enhancing quirks, it was still impressive. When questioned, he cryptically said it was all about the breathing. At one point, Eraserhead gave him his work number. If the Wind Pillar got into an altercation, he would shoot Eraserhead a call and allow him to take credit. He was a low-level vigilante, but he was doing very little to try to keep off the radar. Eraserhead couldn't be bothered to figure out his real name, but the Wind Pillar made no attempt to disguise his identity, instead relying on leaving the scene of the crime before the police arrived. Even the Crawler's all-might hoodie served as a pseudo-costume, but this guy only seemed to wear button-up shirts, with the top button always undone. That is, until after the USJ incident. Eraserhead's head injuries finished healing and he was back in the field. There was no point in wasting time sitting around. Hey, Eraserhead, a voice called to him from the alleyway. It was the Wind Pillar, and he was dressed differently. The usual button-up was replaced by a gakurin, this time left entirely unbuttoned. He was also wearing hakama breathes in the same green color as the gakurin. A short-sleeve white haori covered his shoulders. The most alarming addition was the katana tucked into his belt. Eraserhead activated his quirk as a precaution. The Wind Pillar looked unamused. I wanted to see how you were faring after that, Nomu, and this is how you greet me? It's a rational precaution, Eraserhead said, walking over. That's when he noticed another figure in the alley. He had short black hair and piercing blue eyes. He was wearing a similar uniform to the Wind Pillar, only his was a navy blue, and he was wearing a long-sleeved haori in a green and yellow pattern. That's my new associate, the Wind Pillar said. You can call him the Water Pillar. The Water Pillar gave a small nod of acknowledgement. What's this about? We were wondering if you've got any information on that Nomu from the USJ, the Wind Pillar said. That's classified information. I'm already giving you leniency by letting your vigilantism go unchecked. Why do you need to know? Let's just say we have a personal interest in this case, the Water Pillar spoke up. And we have reason to believe that there is more than one Nomu. Eraserhead's eyes widened in alarm. One was bad enough, but more. We're looking into the League of Villains now, the Wind Pillar said. And, hey, if there's something we can't handle, we'll let you know. Before Eraserhead could say anything else, they took off into the night. They were definitely the weirdest and least rational vigilantes he had ever encountered. The outdated swords, the odd uniforms. Maybe Edgeshot or Yoroimasha would understand the aesthetic better. Contact became more sparse over the following months. But one thing was clear. The Wind Pillar and the Water Pillar were a devastating combination. The Wind Pillar was like a hurricane with fast and fierce attacks. The Water Pillar covered for his partner's offense with flowing river-like defense. The addition of katanas to their arsenal made them even more dangerous. None of the villains they fought ever ended up dead, but it was clear they had good knowledge of vital points and where to strike to avoid lethal cuts. It was after the attack on the summer camp and Bakugo's kidnapping that the water pillar made contact. Eraserhead and Vlad King were giving their statements on the villains' descriptions to Detective Tsukachi. A million thoughts were racing through Eraserhead's mind. This was their biggest failure as teachers and heroes, letting a student get kidnapped. With these descriptions, we should be able to track down the villains and rescue Bakugo soon, Tsukachi said. We'll keep you updated. Eraserhead got up, intent on leaving when he felt a buzzing in his pocket. His phone. He fished it out and saw the number was not displaying. Tsukachi and Vlad King looked at him expectantly. Eraserhead put his phone on speaker mode and picked up the call. This Eraserhead? He heard the water pillar's voice. Yes, Eraserhead said carefully. I'm assuming that you are working on the case of the kidnapped student. It's all over the news, the water pillar continued. We are willing to provide our assistance. Tsukachi motioned for Eraserhead to hand over the phone. This is Detective Naomasa Tsukachi of the police force. Who are you? Oh, relax, the wind pillar broke in. Just a couple of vigilantes, who happen to have a good idea about where the League's hideout is. This caused the three of them to freeze. Aizawa had worked with vigilantes before. Even Tsukachi gave the crawler leniency a few times. But that was in accidental meetings. Never had a vigilante contacted them directly. We believe that there's a bar in Kamino Ward that they are connected to. The one in Yokohama, the water pillar said. However, we have investment in this case, and we have personal experience fighting Nomu. We'd like to be given the chance to take part in this operation with no legal repercussions. There is potentially the life of a child on the line, so you need all the help you can get. Eraserhead, Vlad King, and Tsukachi exchanged glances. The dilemma was as clear as day. If they allowed these two to break the law, how much could others push the envelope? The water pillar was right, though. A student was in danger. And, even if permission was not granted, it was highly likely they would still make an appearance. We will appreciate the help, Tsukachi said after a moment of deliberation. No legal repercussions. Just this once. And who are these two? I really have to work with this guy? The wind pillar said, looking at Endeavor with disgust. I hate types like him. The flame heroes I twitched in anger. These two are the wind and water pillars. Tsukachi introduced them to the crowd of heroes before a fight could break out. They're vigilantes, but they've provided irreplaceable intel for this mission. As such, they are here to provide backup. Vigilantes? Endeavor roared in anger. That's no different from a villain. I'll gladly take you in a fight, the wind pillar taunted. Is your precious ego really that important to you? Please calm down, the water pillar stepped in. We need to go over the mission debriefing and get this over with. Indeed, pull yourself together, Endeavor, Edgeshot said sharply. There is no time for semantics. Endeavor scoffed and sharply turned away, muttering, what kind of help could two people who still wear middle school uniforms even provide? Now then, Tsukachi began. Based on the information the pillars provided and our own investigations, we have gathered that the League has two hideouts. We will attack and secure them both at once to seal off any possible escape routes, working in two teams. However, we have reason to believe that there is another man behind the scenes. He won't come out unless he believes his safety is guaranteed. His strength is said to be comparable to All Might's. The wind and water pillars narrowed their eyes at this. As if they knew something. We have to be very careful about this. If we mess up, we can lose both Bakugo and the League. We cannot falter now. Heroes, go show the world what you're made of. Well, it's over. Tsukachi had the wind and water pillars meet him in his office. Both of them were injured from the fight, but wasn't anything they wouldn't recover from. We appreciate your help with this case, Tsukachi continued. We got Bakugo back safely and All for One is behind bars. There have been many unfortunate repercussions, but that is not what you're here for. He leaned forward. As promised, you will not be charged or arrested for your work on this case, or any previous acts of vigilantism. However, I cannot promise that this courtesy will extend to future cases. In my honest advice, Stop and go back to being normal civilians. Your help was irreplaceable, but no longer needed. Thank you, detective, the water pillar said, preventing the wind pillar from speaking. We will take your words to heart. Whatever, can we leave? The wind pillar scoffed. Tsukachi dismissed them, but he didn't miss the silent look that passed between them. He got the feeling this wouldn't be the last time he hears of the pillars. All right, up in him. It's way too early for this, Katsuki grumbled in response to Burnant's rousing cry. His hero costume mask was pushed up against his forehead, showcasing the bags underneath his eyes. Izuku was adjusting his gloves, his hair a bit more unruly than usual. Why the long face, Bakugo? Burnin asked with a sharp-toothed grin, stretching. Have you beat Endeavor's goal for you yet? No. We were close yesterday. Katsuki yelled back at her. He tugged the mask over his eyes. We were, Shoto said in agreement, fiddling with the braces around his wrists. We can't lose our drive. Today's the day we surpass Endeavor. Izuku and Katsuki wore similar determined expressions. It was a week into their internship at the now #1 Heroes Agency. As a result of their rigorous training, they had undeniably grown stronger, improving on all fronts. But they have yet to pass the objective Endeavor set out for them, to prevent an incident before him. Midoriya, Bakugo, I have something to tell you before we start, Shoto said. What is it, Todoroki? Izuku asked. My sister invited all of us over for dinner this evening, Shoto replied. She wants to meet my friends. For the last time, we're not friends, icy hot. Katsuki exclaimed. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Yes, you are. Shut up, Deku. Enough chit-chat. Endeavor himself had arrived, already marching for the agency doors. Let's go. Shoto sent his father one final glare before following after him. Katsuki and Izuku hurried after him. It was a grueling day of work as the trio did their best to beat Endeavor to resolving an incident. No such opportunity presented itself. Be it stopping a petty thief who stole a businessman's suitcase, or intercepting 2 trucks on a collision course, none of them could surpass Endeavor. You'd think he'd get tired of showing off, Katsuki grumbled as they tried to chase after him. He had an angry snarl on his face. Well, we are still students dash. That's not the point, Deku, Katsuki shot back. We're supposed to grow stronger than our predecessors. Otherwise, what is even the point of all this? Bakugo's right, Shoto said, his mouth drawn in a straight, determined grimace. We can only keep pushing forward. They ran, they soared, they pushed ahead. They gave it their all. And yet, they couldn't even come close to the #1. The afternoon passed them by, and evening arrived. Katsuki, Izuku and Shoto returned to the agency headquarters to change into their school uniforms. After the Todoroki family dinner, they were set to return to campus. The Todoroki family driver, Kurumada, drove the 4 of them to their destination. Shoto's house was large, magnificent. The architecture was modeled after something from traditional Japanese buildings. A stone pathway led from the front gate to the main door. Izuku was captivated. Of course, the Todoroki family was so wealthy, it made sense for their house to be so fancy. It's appealing, Todoroki, Izuku told him. Why am I here? Katsuki grumbled. I already told you, my sister invited us for dinner and wanted to meet my friends. We're not friends. Kaken dash, Izuku muttered in exasperation. Endeavor must have been just as exasperated, because he crossed through the front yard and unlocked the front door. The 3 teenagers followed after him. A young woman with white hair streaked red awaited them in the foyer. Hello, she said in a cheery voice. This Midoriya and Bakugo, right? I'm Fuyumi, Shoto's older sister. It's very nice to meet you, Izuku said, smiling ear to ear, trying to prevent Fuyumi from noticing Katsuki's grumbling. Thank you for inviting us. Is Natsu here too? Shoto asked. I saw his shoes. Yes, Fuyumi said, smiling to herself. The whole family is here. Fuyumi led the 3 of them into the dining room. An older teenage boy was helping set up the table. He kept sending nasty glares towards Endeavor. Natsuo, the third Todoroki child. "Hey," he said when he saw Izuku and Katsuki, giving them a half-hearted wave. He clearly did not want to be here. "I hope you enjoy." Fuyumi said, "It's mapo tofu. I don't know if the two of you are allergic to anything, but if there's anything you can't eat dash." No, it's delicious," Izuku exclaimed. Rich and flavorful on the inside, the crusty outer shell, it might be deceptively simple but it's a complete banquet for the palate, the coating of spice, not too light not too heavy dash. "Stop analyzing the food," Katsuki scowled. "Yeah, it makes sense for sis to be a good cook," Natsuo said offhandedly. "She's been cooking for us since our cook retired." "Natsu, don't be shy," Fuyumi teased him slightly. "You used to cook too." Shoto looked surprised by this fact. "I used to eat your cooking?" Natsuo scowled. "I doubt it. I wasn't any good, so I doubt Endeavor let you eat it. It wouldn't be up to his caliber." Endeavor? Not father, or dad, or even Inji. Just Endeavor. The tension became palpable. Fuyumi sent Natsuo a concerned look and lightly squeezed his leg. Katsuki tried to keep eating, his face screaming, "Not this, not now." Endeavor looked a bit more sullen. Natsuo sighed, getting to his feet. "Natsu dash. Thank you for the food, sis," he murmured. He sounded weary and tired. "I sat at the table, isn't that enough? This is just too much for me." He left the room, closing the door behind him. The rest of the dinner passed quietly. Once the food was all gone, Izuku and Katsuki picked up some of the dishes to help tidy up. Endeavor left with them. Shoto and Fuyumi remained to wipe down the table. "It's not that I don't share some of Natsu's feelings about this," Fuyumi said. "Dad was neglectful to us, abusive to you and Mom, and Toya dash." She fell silent, contemplating it. "But he's trying to change, right? It's like we're all being given a second chance. What do you think, Shoto?" Shoto didn't say anything for a moment. His own feelings were so hard to wrap his head around. "The burn on my face, I blame my old man for it entirely. Mom endured everything he dished out for so long, to the point that she couldn't anymore. I can't just forgive the man who pushed her to the point she'd burn her child at a moment's notice. Honestly, I'm not sure how to feel. I feel like I'm waiting to see something." The door slammed open. "Talking like this in front of guests is in bad taste," Katsuki grumbled. "Any more dishes to clean?" "Sorry about him," Izuku murmured. "Todoroki already told us everything more or less." "Not me, I just happened to overhear," Katsuki clarified, hurrying to gather the remaining dishes and leave the room again. "Sorry," Izuku murmured again, "for eavesdropping. But, Todoroki, about what you said. I think, though I might be wrong, but I think you're getting ready to forgive him. I think you're waiting for something to truly confirm that he's changed. You want to forgive him because you are a good person." Izuku meant well, but something about that statement didn't sit right with Shoto. What does my longing, or lack thereof, to forgive my old man have to do with me being a good person? Fuyumi wants to forgive him and move on, and she's a good person. Natsuo doesn't want to forgive him. That doesn't make him any less of a good person. "I'm not sure," he decided to say instead of voicing all his thoughts. Izuku tried to give him a reassuring smile. "Your brother left," Katsuki announced as he re-entered. "Any more dishes to clean?" "No," Fuyumi said. "Thank you for the help, though." The three boys waited around. They needed Endeavor to drive them back to campus. Fuyumi looked saddened. "Honestly, I can't blame Natsu for how he feels. He and Toya were the closest after all." "Toya?" Izuku asked in confusion. "You did tell them about Toya?" Fuyumi turned to Shoto. "It's not exactly a conversation starter," he said, looking a bit uneasy. Izuku and Katsuki looked curious now. "Well, this was a little bit after Mom went away," Fuyumi said. "Anyways, a little after that, Toya died. And Natsu blames Dad for it." Izuku and Katsuki felt a jolt of shock run through their systems. I guess that explains the look on his face," Katsuki said after a moment. Their conversation was interrupted by Endeavor entering the room. "I've got to take you boys back to school," he said. "Shoto, Izuku, and Katsuki quickly put on their costa and grabbed their belongings. "Thank you for inviting us," Izuku told Fuyumi on the way out. "And send me that mapo tofu recipe," Katsuki said. "It was delicious," he added after a moment. This made Fuyumi beam. "And thank you, to both of you, for being Shoto's friend." This time, Katsuki didn't bother saying that he and Icy Hot weren't friends. The three boys got into the back seat of the car, while Endeavor rode in the front seat. Kurumada pulled out of the driveway and onto the road. "You boys need to get stronger, and fast," Endeavor said. "Dinner was over, and so were the pleasantries. In addition to weekends, I want you to come to the agency at least 2 times during the school week. Make adjustments to your schedule as necessary." "Finals are coming up too," Izuku muttered. "Todoroki, I can help you study for English." "Sounds good." "Kaken, and what about Y-? I'm good on my own," Katsuki said, sticking his head out the window. "Why does the number 1 have such a tiny car?" "If you have a problem, get to school by yourself, you slacker," Kurumada retorted. Something came into view, illuminated by the headlights. It was a man standing in the middle of the street. He was hoisting another person into the air, wrapped up like a mummy. The car skidded to avoid the man. "He's got Natsu," Shoto yelled, realizing that the hostage was his big brother. The passenger side door slammed open, and Endeavor leaped out, the standard business suit burning away to reveal the hero costume underneath. Just as he leapt out, the bandages wrapped around the car, keeping the others trapped inside. "Do you remember me, Endeavor?" the man yelled. The mummy bandages, now revealed to be white road paint, kept yanking Natsuo around. It was as if this guy didn't care about the condition of his hostage. "That violent offender, from 7 years ago. You do remember. I'm flattered. You can call me Ending." The paint came to life, writhing like snakes and coiling around Natsuo. "Let him go," Endeavor roared. "You gotta do your job properly this time, Endeavor." Ending jeered. "I'm going to kill your kid, so do it right this time and kill me." The lines of paint were now flying at Endeavor at a breakneck speed. He prepared a blast of fire to take out the paint and the villain, but he caught a glimpse of Natsuo's utterly terrified expression. He froze. The paint got slashed to pieces. With an explosion, Katsuki blasted apart the paint covering the car, allowing him, Izuku, and Shoto to break out. "You!" Endeavor growled at the new arrival. The trio of students momentarily faltered from the shock of a new player. He was the same height as Shoto, with short black hair. He was wearing some sort of green and yellow coat. A traditional Haori? He held a blue-tinted katana in his hands. "No, not you," Ending said angrily, more paint rising around him. "Only Endeavor can kill me." "Stand back," the stranger simply said, raising his sword. He had a look of serenity on his face. As the paint lines flew towards him, they suddenly dissipated into dust. "Hesitating when your own son is on the line? You're a disgrace, Endeavor." The new voice sounded very angry and brash. Another figure zoomed past them, heading straight for Ending. With a slash of his own katana, the wrappings binding Natsuo fell away. The figure grabbed the hostage and dashed away. Getting over their momentary shock, Katsuki and Shoto darted forward. Katsuki used an explosion to knock Ending's wrappings away, while Shoto froze him in place. They quickly rushed back to where Endeavor and Izuku were. The second stranger had taken Natsuo back there. Now they could get a clear look at him. The newcomer had white hair and his body was covered in scars. He was wearing a similar uniform to the first man. Endeavor tried to reach out and hug his son. Natsuo stumbled back with a harsh, "Don't touch me." Endeavor grimaced and instead turned to the two strangers. "I suppose I should, thank you. Just do your job next time, Endeavor," said the white-haired man. His voice had a harsh undertone to it. "People like you in a position of power is the thing that really pisses me off." The black-haired man turned to look toward Shoto and Katsuki while his companion kept rattling off Endeavor's flaws one by one. "Is the villain secure? You two all right?" "We were doing just fine," Katsuki yelled. "We could have handled it ourselves." The white-haired man froze and did a double take. Bakugo, don't yell dash, Shoto started to say, but he was cut off. Genya? Sabito? Huh? Katsuki scoffed, sneering at the two men. Who the hell's Genya? Why your voice? The scarred man said, his voice barely a whisper. It sounded like Dash. I believe you have us confused with someone else, Shoto said. We are heroes in training in the hero department at UA High. I'm Shoto, and that is Bakugo. We are currently here on an internship. Both men looked utterly lost. There was nostalgia in their eyes. But, the black-haired man muttered, I could have sworn Dash. Police sirens wailed from around the corner. In an instant, the two men snapped out of whatever daze they were in and dashed away, vanishing down a nearby alleyway and ignoring Endeavor's commands for them to stop. They were long gone by the time the police officers scrambled out of their cars. Who were those guys? Izuku asked. Did they know you? No, of course not, Katsuki grumbled. His brows were furrowed, deep in thought. The police forced Ending into the car, who kept yelling about how Endeavor needed to be the one to kill him. They determined that his quirk was controlling white road paint and he had taken a quirk-boosting drag. Natsuo dash, Endeavor tried to say. Don't even say anything, his son growled. I don't care why you hesitated. I want nothing to do with you. I understand that Dash. Like hell you do. Natsuo yelled. Believe it or not, I never meant to neglect any of you. But all I did was dodge responsibility to blame others. And Toya, I might as well have killed him myself. Didn't mean to neglect us. Natsuo sounded like he was in disbelief. Drops of tears were starting to form in his eyes. That's rich. Toya used to tell me everything. It will be a cold day in hell before I forgive you for what you did. If that means I'm not as good a person as Shoto, then so be it. Izuku realized Natsuo must have overheard what he said to Shoto. It felt like something twisted in his heart. He didn't mean it like that. Natsuo, you don't need to forgive me, Endeavor said. I'm not looking for forgiveness, just atonement. You are a good person. You always show up for your sister's sake, don't you? She wants a big, happy family, because that is what I ruined. And you care about how she feels. Wow, you sure have a way with words all of a sudden, Natsuo scoffed. Why do I have to be the one to come around? Atonement? How do you plan to do that? I have an idea for that actually Dash. But Natsuo didn't want to hear any more, storming away and murmuring something about, take a cab home. Endeavor grimaced. Let's go, he said to Izuku, Katsuki, and Shoto. Without another word, they got back into the car, leaving the police to deal with the fallout. So, who are those guys? Izuku asked. I don't think I've ever heard of those pro-heroes. They're not pro-heroes, Endeavor retorted. They're vigilantes. The Pillars. Are they famous around these parts? Izuku asked in his meek tone. Endeavor nodded again. They're persistent. The white-haired one, the Wind Pillar, has been giving us trouble for almost 4 years. The other, the Water Pillar, joined in a little under a year ago. There has been an occasion when they worked with the police. Was that before they became vigilantes? Shoto asked. No, after. Endeavor scowled, clearly not happy about it. For whatever reason, they are very interested in the League of Villains. When Bakugo was kidnapped last summer, they were the ones who provided the location of the League's hideout, and they both fought in the following battle. Their conditions: be cleared of all charges. But, if they are still active vigilantes, we have grounds to arrest them. If you happen to see them breaking the law again, bring them in. What quirks do they have? Izuku asked him. We have that documented, though we haven't been able to cross-check them with the quirk registry since their record was cleared, Endeavor said. The Wind Pillar's quirk is rare blood. Anyone who breathes in the smell of his blood experiences symptoms of intoxication, such as loss of coordination and incoherent thought. The blood needs to come from an open wound. The smaller the opponent and the larger the quantity of blood, the greater the effect. I guess that explains the scars, Izuku muttered. The Water Pillar has a quirk called Dead Calm. If he enters a calm state of mind, any non-living object that enters a range of 2.5 meters from his body turns to dust. This also applies to intangible things such as fire and light. He can choose what objects get affected by it. This quirk cannot be used for long periods of time. It's sort of similar to Shigaraki's decay, then, Izuku muttered again. But this time, more controlled and less lethal. What about those names they called us? Katsuki grumbled. Genya and Sabito. If they are people from their personal lives, then we don't have any information on that, Endeavor said. The three of them exchanged worried glances. It was past midnight by the time they got to school because of Ending's attack. Endeavor and Kurumada dropped them off at the gate and drove off. Izuku, Shoto, and Katsuki used their student IDs to get inside. When they arrived at the Heights Alliance dorm building, the lights were off and no one was in the living room. I guess everyone else went to sleep already, Shoto said. Katsuki still had a thoughtful look on his face. What the hell did those guys mean? Katsuki said, Genya? Sabito? Who the hell are those people? I don't know, Izuku said. You two placed first and second in the sports festival, so it would be hard to mistake you for someone else. I'm not sure, Shoto said. But they sounded so sad. Their voices were in pain. What's that supposed to mean, icy hot? Whoever these Genya and Sabito people are, they are clearly important to them. And more than likely, something bad happened to them. Sanemi and Ju sat in their apartment, not saying anything. The lights were on, and Pochi curled up by Sanemi's legs and whined. Their voices, Sanemi said after a while, staring at a single patch of carpet. His voice, he sounded just like Genya Dash. I know, Ju said in response. I heard Sabito. But it can't really be them, right? It's not them. Sanemi shook his head. I don't think so. But still, I can't help it, he sounded just like my little brother Dash. They both knew it was going to be a sleepless night. Hey Baku bro, you okay? Huh. Katsuki looked up from the problem he was trying to tutor Eijiro and Denki through. Of course I'm okay. You sure? Denki asked. I caught a mistake you made on the last problem. Me, of all people, correcting you, of all people. Katsuki sighed, slapping his hand to his face and dragging it downwards. He spared a glance over to the other table, where Shoto, Momo, and Izuku were silently studying in a group. The students were now hard at work studying for the fast-approaching final exams now that the weekend internships were over with. That morning, under All Might's watch, they went through the new maneuvers and techniques they managed to glean from the internships. Everyone had shown significant improvement. For whatever reason, Aizawa was off campus that day, so they instead informed All Might of their encounter with the pillars. Yes, I worked with them on the mission Endeavor mentioned. He had told them. It was odd. They were the only two aside from me who could manage to hold their own against All for One, even more than the likes of Endeavor or Edgeshot. During the briefing, they had this look in their eyes, as if they were familiar with the situation. Once again, there was nothing on Genya or Sabito. Hey, icy hot, Katsuki called out. Shoto looked up. What is it, Bakugo? He asked. Should we tell these guys about what happened during the internship? Whoa, what happened? Denki exclaimed, alarmed. Did something bad happen? Come on, now you've got to tell us. Eijiro jumped in. What's this about? Momo asked, turning to Shoto. The boy sighed. I guess it won't hurt, he said. Have you ever heard of a pair of vigilantes that call themselves the Pillars? I think so, Denki said, trying to think. Sounds sort of familiar. So, did you encounter them? Momo guessed. Yeah, Katsuki said, leaning back in his chair. They were hella weird. Weirdest part is that they recognized our voices. Called me Genya and icy hot Sabito. That's weird, Eijiro said. The two of you are well known from the sports fest, so it would be hard to mistake you for someone else. That's what I said, Izuku said. And according to my old man and All Might, they provided aid during the Bakugo rescue mission, so they should at least know what he looks like. Any ideas of what it could mean? Momo asked. Katsuki closed his eyes, trying to think. I might be wrong, but I saw something engraved into the blade of the water pillar's katana. It was too quick to see clearly. Something along the lines of, "Destroy demons" or something. Denki almost jumped out of his seat. Now I get it. So that's why it sounded familiar. What is it? Izuku asked. So, you know how I'm like a huge classic literature buff? Denki said, leaning over the edge of the table. Momo laughed a little. Yeah, it's the one subject I can get you excited about. I'd say you know more about Shakespeare and Hemingway than I do. Denki beamed. Well, that phrase, "destroy demons," it reminded me of one of my favorite books from childhood, The Demon Slayers. So, are these pillars like avid fanboy cosplayers or something? Ijiro asked, scratching his head. Denki shrugged. Let me try to find an online PDF, I had to leave my copy at home. Apparently it has been passed down my family for generations. They fell silent as Denki scrolled through his laptop. Katsuki and Shoto tried to return to their homework, but they were too anxious to concentrate. Denki sighed after 15 minutes. Can't find a full PDF. Probably because it's so old. It would have been published before quirks even came about. The most I can find is the preface and introduction. That's still something, Izuku said as he, Shoto and Momo walked over. Well, let's see it. Denki turned the computer so that everyone could see. The Demon Slayers. Compiled and written by Zenitsu Agatsuma, 1926. Transcribed and published by Yoshiteru Agatsuma, 2037. Preface. I loved reading my great-grandfather's book in my teen years. It was a grand tale of loss, love, pushing back against evil. My sister always dismissed it as science fiction. But I had this feeling that there was more to it than meets the eye. My theories were confirmed when I visited my friend Sumihiko's house. There was a framed photo on one of the walls that I never really paid attention to before. The same photograph appears at the end of the introduction of great-grandfather's book. That being said, there is still no solid confirmation if what is in this book is based on real events, or simply a story fabricated around real people. Still, I felt like this was worth sharing with the world so that my great-grandfather's and all of the Demon Slayers' legacies would not fade into obscurity. Yoshiteru Agatsuma. Introduction. Tanjiro Kamado died on July 13th, the last of the marked Demon Slayers to fall to the curse of the Demon Slayer mark. His death followed the pattern established by Tomioka-san's and Shinazugawa-san's deaths. A gradual weakening of the immune system and body, resulting in a quiet, peaceful death the day before they were to turn 25. Tanjiro died surrounded by family and friends. He left behind a wife and 2 kids. My brother-in-law was buried alongside the rest of his family near our house. Kiriya-sama invited us to a ceremony at the old Demon Slayer headquarters. Nezuko stayed behind to look after her niece and nephew, while Inosuke, Kaneo, and myself made the journey for the ceremony. There were many familiar faces there. The Abayashiki family, the Rengakus, Yuzui-san and his wives, Aoi, Kyo, Sumi, Naho. I even thought I saw Yashiro lurking there at night, all there to pay their respects to Tanjiro. Haganazuka-san buried Tanjiro's sword near the front of the cemetery, where headstones honoring all the pillars stood. After a while, everyone left, leaving just me, Kaneo, and Inosuke. The world felt a bit smaller. All of us survived the same final selection test. Our original group of 5 had dwindled down to 3. Inosuke was the first to break into tears. We won. Why did he have to die? He yelled. Kaneo was crying silently. Tanjiro fought very hard against Muzan. He shortened his lifespan to give us a chance to win. We have to honor his death by living life to its fullest. Anything less than that will be an insult to his memory. She was right. Tanjiro's memory will live on. Through Nezuko, his sister. Kaneo, his wife. Inosuke, his best friend. Me, his brother-in-law. When we got back home, Shinoko and Kyoichi were sound asleep. Inosuke left for the mountain forest to blow off some steam, while Kaneo attended to her kids. I found my wife in our room, reading an old journal. Onii-chan Tanjiro kept this journal for me when I was a demon so that I could read everything when I was human again, she told me. I've been reading it every night since then. That gave me the idea to document this story. So many have already been lost, with no one alive to remember them. Tomioka-san. Shinazugawa-san. Among many others. All of their stories were lost to the world. I wanted to preserve the little that were left. With Nezuko's permission, I adapted an abridged version of Tanjiro's journal to his demon sister, combined with my own account of the war against demons. Every still-living demon slayer pitched in with their stories. Whether or not this will ever be read, I don't know. Still, it is nice knowing the words exist somewhere, so that we are not entirely forgotten. This is the story of the generation that defeated the Demon King, Muzan Kibutsuji. At the end of the introduction, there was a photo of a large group of people, gathered and smiling at the camera. Well, all except for one, who was scowling off at some corner. Taken 1 year after the defeat of Muzan. Top to bottom, left to right, Kotestu, Suma, Tengen Yuzui, Teru Haganazuka, Kozo Kanamori, Hinetsuru, Makio, Sanemi Shinazugawa, Murata, Sakanji Urokadaki, Shinjuro Rengoku, Awai Kenzaki, Kaneo Tsuyuri, Zenitsu Agatsuma, Nezuko Kamadu, Tanjiro Kamadu, Inaso Kashibara, Takeuchi, Kanada Ubuyashiki, Kiriya Ubuyashiki, Kuina Ubuyashiki, Ju Tomioka, Senjuro Rengoku, Kyo Tarachi, Sumi Nakahara, Naho Takada. Hold on, look, Katsuki said as they finished reading. He jabbed his finger at the photo. Look at those two. You're right, Shoto said, following the finger. Those two look like the pillars. The similarities are uncanny. The scars seem to be placed differently, but other than that. So, avid cosplayers? Aijiro asked again. Doubt it, Momo murmured. A cosplay is never 100% accurate. This would be. So, who are they? Denki asked. What are their names? Shoto and Katsuki reread the caption, following along the rows of people with their eyes. Ju Tomioka Dash. And Sanemi Shinazugawa. Tuesday came. On that day, only Shoto and Katsuki came for the internship. Izuku was to reschedule classes for the following Thursday, followed by all three of them attending on Friday. In addition to the mandatory weekend internships, Endeavor requested they come in twice during the school week. After their Tuesday morning classes, Katsuki and Shoto caught the first train available to Endeavor's agency. Though on a technicality, with the intervention of the pillars, they did manage to resolve an incident before Endeavor. As such, he pushed them even more than during their first week. They chased after him, practiced their ultimate moves, patrolled the afternoon streets. But their minds were occupied with something else. It was 5:30 when Endeavor finished their training for the day and ordered them to get a bullet train back to UA campus. Katsuki and Shoto packed their belongings, but headed in the opposite direction of the train station. They headed to the local library. We can always change our minds, Shoto offered. No, Katsuki shook his head. We're getting our hands on that book. After reading the excerpt from The Demon Slayers, Katsuki and Shoto became determined to read the full book. The preface and introduction made no mention of Sabito or Genya. Though they now knew the identities of the wind and water pillars, they didn't get the answers they desired. They couldn't find an online version of it anywhere. Their last option was to check out a physical library. So, icy hot, since we know their true identities, shouldn't we turn them in? Katsuki asked as they walked to the library. They are vigilantes, after all. Shoto pondered it and shook his head. Not yet, anyways. We need answers first. Any new theories on why they look exactly like the people in the photo? Shoto shook his head again. Maybe they are just avid cosplayers. Or could it be some sort of time travel quirk at work? Didn't the introduction say they died of some curse? Maybe it was a time travel quirk and they just thought it was a curse. This would have happened before quirks manifested. Oh. It's unclear. Katsuki shrugged. They arrived at the library. The massive shelves and collections of tomes greeted them. Visitors and workers bustled around. What would this book even be classified as? Shoto pondered. Fantasy? Nonfiction? Historical fiction? Katsuki looked around for a moment, taking in the layout of the library. I'll take any section that falls under fiction. You take nonfiction. Shoot a text if you find anything. If not, meet back here in an hour. Shoto nodded in agreement. Remember, we are looking for The Demon Slayers by Agatsuma. I know, Katsuki said, rolling his eyes. The boys split up, each heading to their respective sections. An hour later, and neither found the book in question. They met up near the entrance. The disappointed looks on their faces told them everything. Should have known, Katsuki grumbled. If you can't find it on the web, what are the chances of there being a physical copy at a library? What should we do? Shoto asked. Katsuki paused, thinking. These librarians should all be literature nerds, right? Maybe one of them will know something. Shoto was quick to locate the nearest librarian by the uniform button-up and suit breathes. He waved Katsuki over as he went to get his attention. Excuse me? We are looking for Dash. The librarian jolted and whirled around. Ocean blue eyes met Shoto's stone gray and icy blue ones. The water pillar. Ju Tomioka? Shoto said, sparing a glance at the man's name tag. Katsuki tilted his head in disinterest. Who'd have thought we'd find you here? Ju's face was impassive, the look of shock fading from his features. What can I do for you? He said, voice giving no indication he knew them. We are looking for a book. It's called The Demon Slayers by Agatsuma, Shoto said. Ju blinked a few times and sighed. So you figured it out? Not quite, Katsuki growled with a sneer. We're hoping you can enlighten us. Ju pondered this for a minute. I suppose we've piqued your interest and owe you an explanation. Hang on a minute. My shift is almost done. He left to go to the front desk. Katsuki and Shoto exchanged glances. Can we trust him? Katsuki asked. He is technically a criminal. Shoto shrugged. He seems genuine. And he did help save Natsuo. Ju came back a moment later. It would be best to talk somewhere else. I know a cafe nearby. You'd better not be leading us into a trap, Katsuki said, voice dripping in suspicion. Likewise, Ju said simply. Endeavor's not going to be waiting out there, right? Shoto shook his head. No, you don't have to worry about him. He's patrolling on the other side of the city right now. Good, or Sanemi, the wind pillar, would probably try to fight him on the spot. He hates him. Ju pulled out his phone. I'm gonna phone him right now. Going to tell him to meet up with us. He put the phone to his ear. So, you remember those two heroes in training from last week? Just those two? Well, guess who just ran into me at my day job? I think they just want answers. Can you meet us at the cafe? All right, see you soon. He hung up the call and put his phone in his pocket. Well, lead the way, Takihori, Katsuki scowled. Don't insult the Heiori, Ju said, his voice cold. Follow me. He led them to a cafe a few streets away from the library. Sanemi will be joining us in about 10 minutes. Feel free to order something in the meantime. Hey, Ju. A waitress with wavy auburn hair greeted them. It was clear that he was a regular here. The usual, right? Yes, please. The waiter noticed Katsuki and Shoto. I didn't know you knew these two, Ju. I saw you in the sports fest. Wow, it's an honor. What can I get for you? I'll have mango machi, Shoto said. I guess I'll have a tonkatsu sando, Katsuki said. Right away. Ju, Katsuki, and Shoto were silent for a minute. Okay, I've got a question for you, Katsuki started. How did you not recognize our voices from the sports festival? We didn't watch it, Ju said with a blank expression. Put frankly, we have no interest in this heroism stuff. Well, I guess that explains it, Shoto said. They were awkwardly silent for a few more minutes until food arrived. Ju had ordered a platter of ohagi. Isn't that super sweet? Shoto asked through a mouthful of machi. That's what makes it so delicious. The wind pillar, came up behind Shoto and Katsuki. He walked around the table and gave Ju a quick kiss before sitting down next to it. It's sickening, Katsuki grumbled. How can you stomach so much sugar? Sanemi's eyes went wide for a moment before glazing over with a saddened realization. He looked away, mumbling something along the lines of, no brother of mine would insult ohagi. Brother? We'll get to that, Ju said. I guess we should start by saying this is a long story. And very. You'll probably think we're crazy. Look, we already think you're crazy, Katsuki said, ignoring Ju's glare and Sanemi's look of hurt. But we want answers, alright? We'll even accept the crazy ones. Alright, Sanemi said after a moment. In that case, tell us how much you know. We read the preface and introduction of The Demon Slayers by Zenitsu Agatsuma that was then published by his great-grandson, Shoto began. Ah, that book, Sanemi muttered. We've been trying to get our hands on a copy ourselves, but it's been difficult. It's too old and too niche to have an online version, and physical copies are super rare. What did the section you read say? Ju asked. It basically said that there was a group called the Demon Slayers in the 1900s, that they defeated a demon king, and that there was some sort of curse. There was a photograph of a group of people, two of which looked identical to you. We figured out your names based on the caption, and found out that you were two of the people killed by this curse. That's all of the book we were able to find online, Katsuki continued. So we hope to find a copy at the library. That's when we ran into Taki Haori. Don't insult the Haori. So, it sounds like you've got the basics down, Sanemi said, resting his chin in the palm of his hand. I guess Ju and I can fill you in on the details. He and Ju met gazes. Ju took in a deep breath and started. This isn't our first life. We used to be demon slayers, and we were reincarnated in this time PRD with all of our memories. Reincarnation? Katsuki asked with a look of skepticism. That's hard to believe. What would be the point of us coming up with such a ridiculous lie if it wasn't true? Ju asked. Katsuki didn't have a rebuttal. So, you're the exact same people we saw in the photograph? Shoto asked. That's right. We are the same Ju and Sanemi from that time PRD, Ju continued. The Demon Slayers were a real organization founded sometime in the 1500s. It was unrecognized by the government. So even then you were vigilantes? Katsuki scowled. You got a problem with that? Sanemi asked, looking him right in the eye. Anyways, Ju interrupted, the organization's goal, as you might guess, was slaying demons. Demons are humans that have been transformed by the first demon, Musen Kibutsuji. Demons are driven by a hunger for human flesh. Katsuki and Shoto felt their blood run cold. So, they ate people? Yeah, Sanemi said. The government didn't seem to notice, or they just didn't care. That's why the Demon Slayers needed to exist, because nobody else was willing to do anything. And there were innocent people in need of protection. Within the Demon Slayers, there are 9 members who possess the highest level of swordsmanship. They are known as the Pillars, Ju said. And the 2 of you were Pillars? Shoto asked. Yes. We were also the last active Pillars before the Demon Slayers disbanded following Kibutsuji's defeat. We lived for roughly 4 years after that before dying because of the curse. What's this curse about? Katsuki asked. By pushing their bodies to its utmost limit, Demon Slayers are capable of unlocking the Demon Slayer mark. Sanemi explained. People with the mark experience a boost in speed, strength, and endurance. Katsuki grinned. Sounds awesome. Gaining the mark takes a huge toll on your body, and you're doomed to die by age 25, Sanemi said with an unamused expression. The smile slid off Katsuki's face. It was worth it, I suppose, Ju said, taking a bit of ohagi. Shortening our lifespans, we defeated Kibutsuji, and pretty much all the demons disappeared with him. Though, we're doing our best to avoid activating the marks this time. We don't want to shorten our lifespans this time around unless absolutely necessary. There's only one demon left, but he's for all intents and purposes harmless, Sanemi said, putting the last word in air quotes. It seems like we've got the bigger story, Shoto said, looking at his half-melted machi. But we still don't know who Sabito and Genya are. Ju and Sanemi looked saddened once more. Sabito was my best friend, Ju said, eyes downcast. In my past life, he died protecting me when he was 13. In this life, he was the victim of a kidnapping. That, Taki Haori, is modeled after his old kimono. Katsuki suddenly looked uncomfortable at the prospect of making fun of the Haori. What about this Genya guy? He turned to Sanemi. My little brother, Sanemi said, voice wavering. He helped take out Upper Moon 1, the second strongest demon, but died in the process. Didn't even get to be born this time around. Shoto and Katsuki exchanged apologetic glances, at a loss for words. They figured that Genya and Sabito were somehow important, and that some ill fate had befallen them, but somehow death had escaped their minds. How were they supposed to respond to this? We know you're not really them, Ju spoke up. Apologies if it seems like we are trying to project them onto you. It's just that your voices are almost one for one, Sanemi explained. We were caught off guard the first time. I suppose that's understandable, Shoto said. Is that the whole story? Pretty much, Ju said, moving to stand up. We're sorry we disrupted your heroing. Good luck with your careers. Hold on, Katsuki said. Why are you still vigilantes today if all the evil demons are gone? Sanemi sighed. There's still the League of Villains and their freaky Nomu. It's been a lot harder to track them since their leader was captured. But as the fight between the new number 1 and that weird Nomu showed, they are still very much a threat. We can't stop just yet. Which is why we'd appreciate it if you don't tell anyone what you learned today, Ju said. It'd be hard to fight Nomu from prison or a psych ward. Shoto spoke up first. Alright, I'm sure we can let it slide. Can we? Yes, we can, Shoto told Katsuki. In that case, I think we're done here. Ju and Sanemi got to their feet and started to walk away. Wait, Shoto called. They turned around. I don't think you're crazy. Ju and Sanemi looked stunned for a moment, then smiled. Maybe it would be possible to connect with someone from this life. When Ju and Sanemi got back to their apartment, they breathed out a sigh of relief. At least someone doesn't think we're crazy, Sanemi said with a half-hearted chuckle. That is a reassuring thought, Ju agreed. Sorry I blew our cover. Not your fault, Sanemi assured him. Besides, I reacted first back then. They fell silent for a moment. Still, do you think it was safe to tell them that much? Sanemi asked. What if they turn us in? They intern with Endeavor, after all. I trust them, Ju mumbled. It seemed like they really were just curious. I hope you're right, Sanemi grumbled, brows furrowed. Pochi, as if sensing his distress, waddled over and whined. Sanemi broke into a half-hearted smile and reached down to pet her. Ju took out his phone and looked through it. Missed a call from Sadako. She told me to call back when I get the chance. You go do that then, Sanemi said. I need to take Pochi for a walk anyways. I guess we'll meet back up in the evening then? Sounds good. Sanemi hooked Pochi up to the leash and quietly left the flat, locking the door behind him. Ju redialed Satako's number and waited for her to pick up. Hey, Yu-chan. Ju smiled at the nickname. He was several decades too old for it, but there was something endearing about it. Sorry for not picking up earlier, Nei-sen. What did you want? Just checking in on my little brother, Satako said over the phone. There was a slight clinking sound in the background. Sounds like she was cooking something. Did you have a good day at work? It was fine. Satako didn't need to know about how he ran into Shoto and Katsuki. He didn't even tell her about his vigilante side job. Okay, what's going on, Ju? Nothing, he tried to insist, but Satako interrupted him. Yu-chan, you're my little bro, and I have a MSDRs in psychology. I can tell when someone is lying. You of all people. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine, but it's better than lying. Ju sighed. Satako was very perceptive. I don't want to really talk about it. But honestly, it's nothing bad. You don't have to worry about me. I'm always worried about you. You're my little brother. Anyways, enough about me. How's your job? It's all good, Satako said. You know I can't tell you anything else, though. Patient confidentiality. Yeah, I know. Have you made any new friends? Ju frowned a little. No, not really. You know I'm not good with these social things. Yu-chan. Satako sounded serious again. I know you're not a social person, but you need more than just me and Sanemi as your support system. It's not healthy. You and Sanemi are very codependent from what I've seen. Ju sighed. Satako was right in a sense. With no one else to talk to, He and Sanemi spent a lot of time together even for couple standards. Didn't mean he wanted his big sister to overanalyze his relationship with his boyfriend. I know, Nasan. It's just that we have trouble connecting with most people. I know, Yuchun. Still, try to reach out to someone. Start online if that's easier for you. I've got to go, but we'll talk soon. Ju sighed again as he hung up the phone. He wanted his sister to be happy, since she died so young last time, but neither he nor Sanemi were eager to interact with other people. Sanemi did his tutoring job remotely, and Ju did his best not to interact with his coworkers. Satako was the only person they talked to on the regular. Still, if today proved anything, it was that understanding was possible. Shoto understood, and so did Katsuki to a smaller extent. Ju went about preparing salmon daikon, mulling the conversation over. He pulled the salmon out of the oven, right when he heard the front door click open. You here, Ju? Sanemi called. Yeah, Ju called back. I made salmon daikon if you don't mind. Sounds good. What did your sister say? She wants us to actually interact with people other than each other, Ju said, trying to gauge Sanemi's reaction. Sanemi's brows furrowed and he ran his hand through his hair. I dunno. Just how are we supposed to do that when most people would think we're insane? Ju was silent for a moment, thinking. Well, they're those two kids from today. They didn't think we were crazy. Sanemi laughed humorlessly. Probably the only two in the world. Not counting your sister. Still, maybe it won't hurt to see them again. Maybe. Did you find the book? Izuku asked when he saw Shoto and Katsuki back in the Heights Alliance living room. Momo was tutoring Denki and Kyoka through some math problems, while Tsuyu and Ochako studied together. Everyone else seemed to be in their respective rooms. Shoto and Katsuki exchanged looks. Do they tell Izuku that, while they didn't find the book, they found something even better? Ju and Sanemi specifically asked for them to not tell anyone. Of course we didn't, Deku, Katsuki said finally, trying to make his voice sound irritated. We were pretty stupid to think we could. Don't give up hope, Izuku cheered. We can ask Kaminari to lend us his copy. He'd just need to drop by his house and dash. It's probably best to just drop the subject, Shoto said, noticing Denki look over in interest. It's starting to distract us from our training. We can't afford to get sidetracked by a couple vigilantes. He sent Izuku a look that said, not now. It was a smart cover, but Izuku understood the signal. He didn't bring it up again, only shooting the occasional worried glance to them. They probably could tell Izuku, but the news would have to wait until they were in a more secure place, where no one else could overhear. Izuku was one thing, who had technically seen them, but anyone else in their class would definitely violate the rule Ju and Sanemi had set forth. The opportunity to talk to Izuku presented itself. Late at night when everyone else had gone off to bed. Katsuki had forsaken going to bed early just this once, earning him a spare odd glance from Ijiro. Will you tell me what's going on now? Izuku asked as they took a seat on the couches in the living room. We didn't find the book, Shoto started talking, but we met them in person. You did? Izuku said in shock before lowering his voice. I mean you did? Yeah, Katsuki said, lying on his back with his arms crossed behind his head. Tac dash, he paused, wanting to establish to a different nickname. Ocean Eyes works at the library of all places. That's a weird coincidence. Yeah, Shoto said. We then met up with him and Shinazugawa, and they pretty much explained everything. They retold the entire story to Izuku, talking in hushed whispers. Izuku listened, captivated. We can't tell anyone about this, Midoriya, Shoto said. They made us promise. I'm capable of keeping secrets, so you better watch your mouth, Deku, Katsuki said. I get it, Izuku said, voice gravely serious. Most people would probably think they're insane. That's precisely why they don't want anyone to know, Shoto said, sounding sad. By the sound of it, they had experienced that before. That kind of stigma? Katsuki clarified. Shoto nodded. It's scary, honestly. When no one believes you even when you're telling the truth. It must get lonely, Izuku murmured. Not having anyone who could understand. Maybe it's part of the reason there's still vigilantes. They have nothing else to live for. What are you suggesting? Katsuki asked, eyebrow raised. I think Midoriya is suggesting that we become friends with them, Shoto said, voice blank. Katsuki scoffed. Look, fine, I'm not gonna turn them in, but they're still breaking the law. I'm not gonna be buddy-buddy with them if it jeopardizes my hero career. Besides, I sound like Tomioka's dead best friend and Bakugo sounds like Shinazugawa's dead little brother, Shoto said. Even if they try not to project them onto us, hearing our voices is probably still painful. Izuku thought for a moment. An idea suddenly came. You know, I've been searching for clips of them ever since our internship. They seem to have some type of superhuman strength for people who don't have strength-enhancing quirks. What are you suggesting this time? They must know some sort of special technique. Izuku said, eyes sparkling. Something even the pros don't know. Katsuki and Shoto looked at each other, perplexed. Then, what Izuku was trying to say dawned on them. You mean we can learn that technique for ourselves, and become even stronger? Shoto asked. Izuku nodded vigorously. Yes. The three of us can learn from them. I'm sure we'll figure out a way to meet up. And where do you come from? Katsuki asked, annoyed. You're not even supposed to know. You can just explain that you only told me. Izuku waved it off. Well, Shoto said, deep in thought, perhaps learning a new technique could help us become better heroes. Katsuki pulled out his phone, the bright screen briefly illuminating the room before he adjusted the setting. So, what should we do? He asked. Try to find them on social media? I guess so, Shoto said, taking out his own phone. We should probably communicate through your account, since my old man can see who I follow. You can make a second account, Todoroki, Izuku suggested, already typing on his phone. It was Ju Tomioka and Sanemi Shinazugawa, right? Yeah, that's right, Katsuki said, sitting cross-legged on his bed. Shoto was busy making a new account. Think I found them, he said after a minute, quickly sending a link to Shoto and Izuku through their group chat. They both only follow 2 people, Shoto noted. They really are lonely. They follow each other and, Izuku said, some lady named Tsutako Saito. Looks like she could be Ocean Eye's sister, Katsuki said, glancing over her profile. I guess we should send them a friend request, then, Shoto said. All 3 of them quickly followed the 2 pillars. A few moments later, they were sent to a group chat. Sanemi Shinazugawa, 11:17 p.m. What the hell are you thinking? Following us out of nowhere? Are you trying to get us caught? Ju Tomioka, 11:17 p.m. And who's the Midoriya kid? Izuku Midoriya, 11:19 p.m. Hello. I'm Izuku Midoriya, hero named Deku. I'm a classmate of Kaken and Todoroki. Don't worry, they haven't told anyone else. I'm just in the same internship as them, so I already sorta knew what was going on. Sanemi Shinazugawa, 11:20 p.m. Fine, okay. But you better not tell anyone else. Ju Tomioka, 11:21 p.m. By the way, Shoto, isn't your name misspelled? Shoto Tadakori, 11:22 p.m. It's a second account so my old man can't track it. Sanemi Shinazugawa, 11:22 p.m. Back to the original question. Why did you follow us? Katsuki Bakugo, 11:23 p.m. We want you to teach us whatever technique you use to get superhuman strength. Ju Tomioka, 11:25 p.m. Huh? Sanemi Shinazugawa, 11:25 p.m. You idiots. How are we supposed to teach you without getting caught? And why do you even assume we want to teach you? Izuku Midoriya, 11:26 p.m. We are supposed to come in for internships at least 2 times a week, in addition to weekends. We can just do the same thing Kaken and Todoroki did today and stop by after that before going back to campus. Should we tell them that we think they're lonely? Shoto asked, glancing between Katsuki and Izuku. Probably not, Katsuki said. They'd probably see it as an insult. A new ping came on the chat. Ju Tomioka, 11:28 p.m. Ori. If you can, meet us at the same cafe as today. Text us the approximate time you'll be there. Shoto Tadakori, 11:29 p.m. Very well. We'll contact you next time we are all available. The chat's silent now, Ju said, tucking his phone away. Is it really smart to meet up with them again? Sanemi asked, polishing his sword. Especially since they brought that new kid in. Ju closed his eyes, thinking. What's the harm? If this is a trap, we'll be ready. I'm sure we will be able to escape if necessary. He paused. Tako's right. Maybe we do need the company. And those two are probably the ones who understand the best aside from Nei-san. Sanemi sighed, not fully convinced. Alright, if you say so. I just hope you know what you're doing. The next Sunday came. Ju's phone pinged. Shudo Tadakori, 5:47 p.m., we're at the cafe. Ju put his phone away and silently motioned to Sanemi. Sanemi returned the gesture, changing the way he was leading Pochi. They saw 3 kids sitting at a table at the cafe. Shoto, Katsuki, and another boy with curly green hair and a sprinkle of freckles. You have a dog. That's adorable. The new kid, presumably named Izuku, exclaimed. Jur and Sanemi stiffened for a moment. Sanemi slapped his free hand to his face. Did I say something wrong? Izuku asked, looking confused. Not this again, Sanemi muttered, pulling up a chair. Is his voice also familiar? Shoto asked, taking a bite from his machi. Ju nodded. If I had to describe it, he sounds like Yashiro, but with Tanjiro's mannerisms. Is there anyone else in your little group that's gonna give us nostalgia? Sanemi asked, annoyed. How the hell are we supposed to know? Katsuki growled. Ju and Sanemi took a seat at the table, Pochi contently curling up by Sanemi's legs. They quickly ordered the usual ohagi. So, you want to learn our techniques? Ju asked. Shoto nodded. Somehow, even though you don't have strength-enhancing quirks, your physical abilities are far above average. We want to know what it is. Izuku vigorously nodded his head. Katsuki gave a single curt nod. Sanemi and Ju looked at each other, as if trying to communicate silently. It's a technique from the old Demon Slayer days, Ju began to explain. It's known as total concentration breathing. Total concentration breathing? Izuku repeated, curious. As you can probably guess, it's a breathing technique, Sanemi said. The key is drastically increasing your lung capacity to allow for maximum blood flow. It makes you stronger, faster, more durable. When paired with our swordsmanship, it puts us on par with demons. Whoa, that sounds really interesting, Izuku said. I mean, who could have guessed something as simple as proper breathing could have such a drastic effect on your physical form? I wonder if an equivalent of this has already been adapted. After all, it's far too useful to be tossed aside, so maybe there are other heroes who already know this at least under a different name dash. He tends to ramble, Katsuki explained, catching a glimpse of Sanemi and Ju's bewildered expressions. I thought you wanted to learn from us, Sanemi grumbled. So you'll teach us? Shoto asked. Ju interlaced his fingers and rested his chin on his hands. Yes, we're willing to teach you. If you're willing to learn from a pair of vigilantes, Sanemi sneered. Whatever, Katsuki grumbled. We've got our provisional licenses, so we are in the clear for any fights we get into under your watch. We want whatever advantage we can get, Shoto said, equally serious. We're ready, said Izuku. Very well then, Ju said, moving to stand up. We start now. This is supposed to be your house? Katsuki asked, looking unimpressed. You got a problem? Sanemi shot back, unlocking the door and letting Pochi inside. The Shiba immediately waddled over to the closet. Sanemi opened the door and dug through the treat box, tossing a small cracker to her. Izuku and Shoto took a second to take the place in. It was small, yet homely. The kitchen smelled vaguely of the sea. They must cook fish a lot. Almost every corner of the living room had some kind of pinwheel, all of them spinning from the light breeze coming from the open door. A small cage housing a rhinoceros beetle stood on a bookshelf. By the way, don't you intern with Endeavor? Ju asked as he locked the door. Won't he want to know where you are? We're done for the weekend, Shoto explained. We can come by when we won't be missed. For now, that's Sundays after the internship, or on our individual days. Very well, let's get started, Sanemi said, walking into the kitchen to retrieve something. Ju in the meantime motioned for Katsuki, Shoto, and Izuku to follow him into the backyard. In our past life, we did not have quirks, Ju said. The demons had blood demon arts, which are similar to modern-day quirks. So, we had to be skilled enough with traditional combat methods to fight against supernatural enemies. Hence the swords. Shoto asked. Ju nodded. Our swords are made of a special iron called Nichirin. It's a metal capable of absorbing sunlight, making it one of the few weapons capable of killing demons. Since these are the weapons we are most comfortable with, we continue to use them today. Where'd you get them from, anyways? Katsuki asked, kicking a stray pebble. Got them smelted on the black market, Sanemi said, joining them. He was carrying 4 ceramic gourds and a pair of bakens, balancing the items in the crooks of his arms. What? We're not exactly upstanding citizens, he said in response to Izuku's disapproving glance. He tossed one of the bakens to Ju, who caught it with practiced ease. Total concentration breathing is often used in companionship with swordplay, but they can be completely independent, Ju continued to explain. If you'd like, we can teach you the basics, or we could just stick to total concentration breathing. What kind of swordsmanship do you practice? Izuku asked innocently. Sanemi sighed. There's a long history to the Demon Slayer's swordplay. It started in the 1500s with the original form, known as the Breath of the Sun. It was also the hardest to master, so many subforms were created. The 5 main subforms were flames, stone, thunder, water, and wind, Ju said. Water? Wind? Shoto said as Izuku vigorously took notes. Is that why you call yourselves the Wind and Water Pillars? Katsuki asked. Precisely. You sound like a smart cookie, Sanemi said. In any case, are you interested in the swordsmanship, or just the breathing? We can't waste time, Katsuki said with a growl. Teach us the breathing. Sanemi had a wild grin. In that case, you'll need these. He held up the gourds in his arms. In the old days, there was a simple exercise you'd perform, Ju explained. Sanemi handed the final gourd to him before standing back. Ju set his bakken against the wall. He held the gourd to his lips and blew into it. After a few moments, the gourd broke off into a shower of ceramic splinters. Shoto, Katsuki, and Izuku watched with gaping mouths. This was a simple demonstration, but both Sanemi and I are capable of breaking gourds the size of our bodies. That's incredible, Izuku said in awe. To do something like that, to break ceramic with just air, your lung capacity must be off the charts. When are we going to be able to do that? Katsuki demanded to know. It varies, Sanemi said with a shrug. On average, most demon slayers trained for 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years. We don't have that much time. We never said this was going to be easy, Sanemi said cross. I recall you saying you'll do whatever it takes. We will, Shoto said voice assured. We look forward to training under you. The trio returned to campus well into the evening with puffy reddened cheeks. When Eraserhead asked why they were so late, Shoto said Endeavor took them on a longer patrol this time around. They excused themselves to their rooms, not missing the concerned looks of Denki, Iaro, and Momo. We'll have to come up with a better excuse next time, Izuku said when they gathered secretly in his room. It won't take long for them to put things together if we're not careful. But Kogo and I won't be getting back until Tuesday, so we'll think of something by then, Shoto said, already in bed. Total concentration breathing is hard, though, Izuku muttered. What do you think, Kaken? I'm gonna do it, the blonde seethed angrily. I'm going to get it before either of you, and I'll be better at it too. I guess all that's left is to practice it until we can see them again, Shoto said. Hard to believe they do it constantly. I was out of breath after just 5 seconds. I'm sure we will get the hang of it eventually, Izuku said, optimistic as ever. Only the All Might memorabilia served as a witness to their secret. The next morning, they got up and trudged through morning classes. Denki, Eijiro, and Momo kept trying to catch their eyes. Should we tell them? Izuku whispered to Katsuki while they waited for Present Mike to hand out assignments. Not a chance, Katsuki whispered in return. Even telling you was pushing the envelope. The bell for lunch rang. Eijiro and Denki wasted no time catching Katsuki outside the classroom door. So what's the deal with those demon slayers? Denki asked. You know, next parent visitation day is coming up, so I can get my book copy, then dash. Just drop it, Sparky, Katsuki said, glaring daggers. Don't even think about sticking your nose into this. Denki squeaked and jumped back. Fine, fine, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Ijiro looked concerned. Don't shut us out. We're just worried. Well, you're worried over nothing. Just a pair of troublemaking vigilantes. That doesn't concern us. Hey, if you won't talk to us, at least tell Mr. Aizawa, Denki suggested. He should know about this. Yeah, whatever. In the meantime, Momo was busy questioning Shoto. Yairozu, I know you mean well, but this vigilante business really isn't something we should be messing with, Shoto said. It's best to let the pros handle it. Momo pursed her lips, knowing he was hiding something. Nonetheless, she dropped the subject. The three boys managed to meet up after the day's classes were over. They went to Shoto's room, away from prying eyes and ears. All right, we should set some boundaries, Shoto spoke up first. Should we tell anyone, and if so, who? I vote no one, Katsuki grumbled. First off, it would be hard to explain. Second, even if we aren't technically breaking the law, it will reflect badly on us if people find out we're hanging out with vigilantes. I get your point, Izuku mumbled. But Endeavor and Mr. Aizawa aren't stupid. They'll figure things out eventually, and we'd probably get in more trouble for not coming clean sooner. Remember, Todoroki and I are pretty much on thin ice, me mostly. My old man is definitely someone who cannot find out about this under any circumstances, Shoto said. He holds vigilantes and villains in the same league. And Shinazugawa hates him. Even on the off chance we get off scot-free, those two would be in serious trouble, and I don't want them to go through that. That leaves Mr. Aizawa and the rest of the class, Izuku offered. We can't tell the others, Katsuki protested. It is bad enough that Sparky, Dumbhair, and Ponytail have a vague idea of what's going on. If they or someone else finds out the truth, it will spread like wildfire because some people can't keep their mouths shut. We can't let too many people find out. So what about Mr. Aizawa? Shoto said. I reckon he would be rational enough to keep this under wraps. And, based on the way he conducted our lessons and his status as an underground hero, he is less antagonistic to vigilantes than most. Still, I don't think we should spill their entire story without their permission, Izuku murmured. They really do seem concerned with not being seen as crazy. Well, that's an easy fix, Katsuki said, pulling out his phone. We could just ask them. Katsuki Bakugo, 6:43 p.m. Hey, we might need to tell someone about you. They waited for a response. Okay, let's say they agree. How are we going to tell Mr. Aizawa? Shoto asked. We can't just walk up to him and say, the Pillar Vigilantes are reincarnations of demon slayers from over 500 years ago. Their phones vibrated. Sanemi Shinazugawa, 6:45 p.m. Seriously? The one thing we ask you not to do and you're ready to break that rule again? Ju Tomioka, 6:45 p.m. You're testing our trust. Shudo Tadakori, 6:46 p.m. We were thinking of Eraserhead, our homeroom teacher. We're just worried he might figure things out on his own, and that will be worse for everyone. The chat went silent, Sanemi and Ju clearly talking it over. Ju Tomioka, 6:49 p.m. Ari. We have conditions. We must talk to him in person. Explain the basics that we met up with you and are in correspondence. Tell him we want to meet. Sanemi Shinazugawa, 6:49 p.m. And we are only telling him so that he knows we aren't kidnapping you or something. Izuku Midoriya, 6:50 p.m. Alright. We can do just that. Sanemi Shinazugawa, 6:50 p.m. And don't you dare mention anything about reincarnation. Aizawa pondered how he got himself into this situation. Was it when he turned a blind eye to the Pillar's initial vigilantism, or would this have still happened even if he stepped in earlier? Either way, here he was in an old alleyway, quirk activated as a precaution, listening to the Pillars try to explain that his students were sneaking away from their internships to learn breathing techniques. Look, your brats approached us first, Shinazugawa. They had finally revealed their real names, said. We have no incentive to continue if it's going to have an adverse effect on us. Like we've said, we don't care about heroism. I suppose it is only rational for the students to learn as many techniques as possible to better prepare them, Aizawa said, deep in thought. However, as everyone has observed, it won't take long for heroes less tolerant than myself to figure out what is going on. Do you have an insurance plan for when that happens to ensure both your safety as well as the students? Tomioka looked over him carefully. There are multiple issues at hand. At first, we thought that the students would be safe from scrutiny because they have their provisional licenses. However, Midoriya and Todoroki have since told us that they both have gotten in trouble with the law over acts of vigilantism. That complicates matters if they are linked to us. I agree, Aizawa said. With their provisional licenses, being around you can be interpreted as them endorsing vigilantes, especially if the media gets involved. Same problem if UA chooses to back you officially. We don't want administrative backing, Shinazugawa insisted. We just want to do our own thing. If the brats tag along, that's up to them. Unfortunately, Midoriya especially has a knack for getting into trouble, Aizawa muttered. If he has his heart on something, it is hard to dissuade him. If he keeps down this path, Bakugo and Todoroki are likely to follow in order to keep rank with him. Well, what the hell are you suggesting, Eraserhead? Shinazugawa grumbled. Look, case in point, they won't be able to keep staying late, and Ju and I aren't willing to risk getting caught. I think the most rational decision would be for us to come up with a more plausible reason for them to be held back. I have an idea in mind, but it would require the authentication of both UA's principal and the Hero Public Safety Commission. We'd rather avoid getting the government involved, Tomioka cut in. Aizawa agreed in all honesty. The commission seemed to be planning for an all-out war. If kids got dragged along, they didn't care. His plan, it would be putting his students into even more potential danger than the commission had already subjected them to. It is the best way to ensure their safety. Sure, whatever you say, Shinazugawa grumbled, furrowing his brows. But if this plan isn't in our favor, we're bailing. Fair enough, Aizawa, releasing his quirk and feeling his hair fall flat over his shoulders. In that case, we're off for now, Tomioka said. Shinazugawa had already crawled over the wall and jumped away. Wait, Aizawa said before Tomioka could follow. The water pillar looked at him expectantly. Why are you so attached to those kids? It doesn't seem to be in your best interests to keep hero trainees so close by. Tomioka looked on passively. It is true that we might not gain anything from taking them under our wing. But, if your heroism is to send them on a course for a life of hardship, extra preparation is required. We wouldn't want children to die before their careers have even begun. With that, Tomioka went to join Shinazugawa. Aizawa glowered after them before making his own way out of the alley. He had no reason to trust them. They were vigilantes who had no direct benefit from keeping an eye on his students. It would be his personal failure if misfortune befell them now. But, for an unexplainable, irrational reason, he knew that the pillars could be counted on. It didn't make sense. They were in their early 20s, barely adults. But he could sense that they must have gone for something unimaginable. Something they would not wish on anyone else. Something that they'd be willing to fight against it to their final breath. Good morning, class. Good morning, Mr. Aizawa. Their homeroom teacher looked more tired than normal. He was still within the confines of his bright yellow sleeping bag, looking ready to fall over at a moment's notice. Class 1A sat up a bit straighter. Tomorrow, you will be returning to your weekend internships once more. However, a new program has been added to your usual tasks with your pros. This made the class eerily still. Shoto glanced to where Katsuki and Izuku were seated in front of him. Ju and Sanemi had contacted him Wednesday evening through text and told them that Eraserhead was planning something. In order to garner your independence, you will spend time away from your mentors, doing hero work without their guidance. The specific time intervals will be at your mentor's discretion. These sessions will be completely unmonitored. Since you are an elite class, we expect that you will be using this time wisely. Wow, this is new, Denki said, twisting in his seat to lock eyes with Eijiro. Yeah, we're sailing into uncharted territory. The other exclaimed with excitement. So manly! Still, to take such a drastic step forward in such a short time. Momo glanced at Shoto on her right. We're still only first years dash. Aizawa's hair floated up, signaling for silence. That's all you need to know for now. Your pros will fill you in on the details tomorrow. Now you've got training at Gym Gamma. Get your costumes and head to the locker rooms. As the class began to move out, he called once more, Bakugo, Midoriya, Todoroki, wait for a moment. Tenya and Ochako exchanged confused glances. Well, see you in the gym then, Deku, Ochako said, waving goodbye. Momo gave Todoroki a concerned glance, while Denki and Eijiro simply shrugged and waved goodbye to Katsuki. The three boys stood in front of their homeroom teacher. As you have probably surmised, this program is entirely for your benefit. Don't take this lightly. I have entrusted you to the pillars, so I am counting on all 5 of you to not waste this learning opportunity. Understood, Mr. Aizawa? Izuku exclaimed. Endeavor doesn't seem very happy with the new program, Izuku noted as they walked to Ju's apartment. You don't think he'll get suspicious and start investigating? I doubt it, Shoto said, looking through his phone as they walked. He has no reason to believe that this program was kickstarted by our interactions with the pillars, so I don't think he'll look too deeply into it. Besides, there's the new idea of building the independent next generation, Katsuki pointed out. Even without Ocean Eyes and Sweet Tooth, this program has nothing but benefits. They walked the rest of the distance and knocked on the door. Sanemi let them in, making a motion for them to be quiet. The reason why became apparent soon after, as Ju walked past them in the hallway, phone pressed to his ear. I suppose you could call them friends, they just bumped into me at the library. His sister, Sanemi explained after Ju was out of earshot, moving to the other side of the flat. She's always pestering us about socializing more, and she finally noticed that we have new people in our follow list. She's pleasantly surprised that you're all mini-celebrities. Does she know about the reincarnation? Shoto asked. Ju hasn't told her, and she doesn't seem to have memories of her own past life, Sanemi said glumly. You 3 are the only people we've told aside from my new parents, and they didn't take it so well. New parents? Katsuki questioned. What the hell does that mean? Sanemi rolled his eyes. It's just how I distinguish my parents from this lifetime and my past life. Both of mine are different people while Ju's are the same. He looked a bit crestfallen. Even if they don't remember, at least he is familiar with them. I didn't have my mother, or Genya, or any of my other siblings. He made no mention of his father. Ju came back into the room a few minutes later. Apologies, he said briefly. My sister called. She's going to try to visit soon. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, Sanemi replied, stretching. No reason to waste time for now. Let's get to training. The pillars led Izuku, Katsuki, and Shoto to the yard, setting them up with the gourds. Keep your core tight, Sanemi instructed. Proper stance is vital. They adjusted their stance. Kept blowing into the gourds. Nothing happened. How the hell do you do this? Katsuki breathed out. His cheeks were red and puffy. Practice, Chu said simply. When I was 12 and Sanemi was 13, we began to reincorporate our old training regimes into this life. That means we've had roughly 8 years each to readjust to the strain breathing takes on your body. We told you you're not going to get it overnight, Sanemi said, crossing his arms. For now, try to focus your breathing into one precise moment. It should give a sudden burst of energy. Once you can handle that, work on incorporating it into every minute of every hour of every day. Work together to keep each other in check. They practiced for a few more hours, Sanemi and Ju occasionally stepping in to give suggestions or correct their stance. At some point, Ju left the situation entirely to do something inside. Sanemi gave pointers, but it was clear to them that his expertise was in fighting, not instructing. Is breathing even real? Katsuki grumbled after the training session was over. The gourds remained intact, while tired blisters grew over their hands. It is always possible they have a secondary, dormant quirk, Shoto mused, picking at his nails. But what would be the purpose of this ruse, then? I just know we'll get it with enough hard work, Izuku said, trying to remain optimistic. With enough hard work, anything is possible. They left the yard and re-entered the house. Sanemi was feeding the pet beetle pieces of mango. Don't leave just yet, he told them, not looking up from the insect. Ju came out of the kitchen, carrying a large platter of salmon sushi. You don't have to, Shoto said, clearly taken aback by the hospitality. If you're going to train under us, you might as well eat here too, Ju said, setting the platter on the table and returning to the kitchen to get utensils. Izuku ran after him to help. In our past life, we lived on the cultivator's estates for the duration of training, Sanemi said, getting to his feet and closing the top of the beetle's cage. Not quite the same for you, but you can stand to eat a few meals with us. Sure, whatever. Katsuki excused himself to go wash his hands. Shoto went after him. With the table set, they ate. The sushi was really good. Salmon seemed to be Ju's favorite. Mr. Shinazugawa? Mr. Tomioka? Izuku asked after a few minutes. Yeah. I was wondering, how would you find people from your past life? I mean, they could be basically anyone. How would you know where to look? They could have different names, different appearances, completely different lives, and you wouldn't even know dash. Relax, we know what to look for, Sanemi interrupted. There do seem to be some basic rules to reincarnation that we figured out based on ourselves, Ju said. Reincarnations have the same general appearance as the originals. They are also born with the same name. In fact, we've been using these criteria to try and find others, Sanemi said, wistful. We initially assumed they'd be born into the same time period as us, but we were dead wrong about that. There's also the issue of descendants, Ju continued. Some of the original family lines survived. The cafe we frequent is owned by descendants of the Kamadu line if traced back far enough, though it gets difficult to track once you get to the development of quirks. Of course, the other family line to survive is the Rengoku family, Sanemi said. It was probably mentioned in that book you read. Sounds familiar, Shoto said in agreement. Sanemi pulled out his phone, pulling up an article he had saved. That family has churned out demon slayers from the beginning of the organization. Kids all look identical, as if they're put through a copy-paste machine. He showed them the article. Rise of the First Wave of Heroes. This was back when quirks first appeared over 100 years ago, Sanemi explained. He scrolled down a little further, until a picture came into frame. It was of a man with flaming golden hair and an impassioned grin. He radiated power and kindness at the same time. The caption read, Kaijuro Rengoku. Kaijuro was the flame pillar in our generation, Ju said. He was one of the first noted heroes to arise, even before the official licensing system was created. Noted for being quirkless. That appears to be his most recent reincarnation. Izuku looked in awe. I remember reading about him before. My quirk manifested really late, so I thought I was quirkless for a long time. It was hard to cheer for him in the same way as All Might because he was so old and there wasn't much on him, but he was one of my childhood idols, too. This got a grin from Sanemi, and even Ju's lips twitched upwards. There's more too, Sanemi said. We managed to track down all of our fellow pillars' newest reincarnations. He scrolled through his phone once more. UA's first alumni class when the school first opened, he said. There were 2 prodigies in the class. Twins with the identical quirks of omnipresent rage. Left, older twin, Yuichiro Takito. Fog hero, permanence. Right, younger twin, Michiro Takito. Mist hero, infinite. Sanemi's smile faded as he pulled his phone back toward himself. In our past life, Michiro was the mist pillar. This time, he died when he was 17 during an internship. It led to the initial tightening of the hero internship guidelines. Yuichiro went on to become the youngest hero to reach the top 10 Billboard chart until All Might himself broke that record. He looked genuinely disheartened. He must have been close to Michiro on some level. Ju took over, taking out his own phone and looking through it. The next one was actually from All Might's graduating class. Have any of you heard of Dash? He grimaced at the name, the flamboyant hero, god of festivities? I have, Izuku piped up again. His quirk was Score, an echolocation-esque ability that allowed him to compress enemy attacks into sounds and release them as auditory shockwaves. Well, that's the old sound pillar, Tengen Yuzui, Ju said. He was the only pillar alongside us to survive the final fight against the demons, though he likely outlived both of us since he didn't manifest a mark. Sanemi nodded in confirmation. And that's all the pillars that took the hero path, he said, scrolling through his phone. Himejima-san, the stone pillar, ran an orphanage back in the day, about 40 years ago. It was well regarded for having one of the best quirk education programs in the country. Then, there's the snake hero, Iwabami, Ju said. I thought you said no one else was reborn in this generation. Katsuki cut in. I wasn't finished, Ju continued. Due to her celebrity status, her real name and family line are public knowledge. Her name is Hebamai Iguro. Her paternal grandparents were Abanai and Mitsuri Iguro, the former serpent and love pillars. Sanemi chuckled. Those two really did manage to get together this time around. Good for them. Ju also looked content. Abanai inherited his mother's support item company, and he personally weeded out a lot of the corruption on the board of directors. Mitsuri became a world-renowned artist that offered anyone who could beat her in arm wrestling a free painting. No one ever claimed that prize. Many of her profits went to support improved quirk education, especially concerning those shrouded in stigma. Abanai's company was also partnered with the Healing Butterfly, a well-respected medicine brand, Sanemi explained. The whole operation was run by the Kocho sisters, with Kana, the former flower pillar, as the business head, and Shinobu, the insect pillar, running the research. Whoa, Shoto said starstruck. To think that they've had such an extensive influence. Even in this life, the pillars remain to support the world, Ju said listlessly. And now there's us, the former wind and water pillars, working as vigilantes. But we're all that's left for now, Sanemi said. Shinobu was the last to die almost 16 years ago. Kane has a daughter in her late 30s, but she wouldn't have any memories because she didn't even exist in our past life. Same with Iwabami. All we can really do is hope they reincarnate in our lifetime again. The pillars fell into silence, and it once again struck Izuku, Shoto, and Katsuki just how lonely they were. Kaijuro Rengoku. Quirkless. The symbol of evil encountered his first serious opposition from his stubborn, rebellious younger brother. His second serious opposition came from this man with flowing golden hair and wild eyes of fire standing before him now. They had something in common, this man and his brother. They were both quirkless, and seemed to believe in an idealistic, perfectly flawed system of justice. The exploitation of the weak and powerless is despicable, he proclaimed with a determined grin. He drew a deep crimson katana. Destroy demons was engraved in it. I promise you that I will put an end to your evil ways. All for One detested that idealistic, naive worldview. He sought out to destroy it. But he found it did not come as easily as he foolishly expected. This man didn't challenge him out of misplaced hubris. Despite not having a quirk, he fought with unprecedented skill. It was certainly odd. He had experience beyond his years. He fought as if he had ample practice fighting against opponents with powers in his fragile, unpowered body. It wasn't so much of a strict swordplay style as it was an appealing fiery dance. It was his breathing, All for One realized. This man was using some sort of breathing technique to fight beyond the stretches of normal human stamina. And for most of the fight he smiled. Still, regular human endurance will always be unmatched by the force of quirks. After almost 2 hours of an endless back and forth, the symbol of evil sent his adversary flying into a building, where he struggled to stir. The sword shattered to pieces. You fought valiantly, All for One told him with his signature faux kindness. But, it seems you were mistaken when you said you'd put an end to my evil ways. Making promises you can't keep really is unfashionable. Any last words? The man did not panic, scream, cry, or beg for mercy. He grinned and reached for his broken sword once more. Even if I die today, other pillars will always rise in the face of demons. The next blast annihilated him. No quirk to steal, no body to bury. No trace that he ever existed. But the ghost of his smile continued to taunt all for one from beyond the grave. The symbol of evil came to the conclusion that he detested heroes who dared to smile in his presence. Yuichiro and Michiro Takito. Quirk, omnipresent rage. While in a state of rage, their physical prowess skyrockets. Chio, hero name, recovery girl, left the nurse's office and saw Yuichiro seated outside, legs in a criss-cross position. Your brother Dash, she started to say. The older student gripped the side of the chair, crushing it. Mui's an idiot. He screamed. What was he thinking, jumping in front of that attack? Did he forget he has a disturbance tactic move? He idiot. Chio grimaced. The Takito twins were Yue's golden children. The first ever class managed to have a bright pair of prodigies. The twins were placed with separate teachers, but were inseparable in every other account. They trained together, they fought together. Even their hero names spoke to this. Fog and mist. Permanence and infinite. So, when Michiro was gravely injured during the latest internship, the entire faculty and student body was thrown into disarray. First-year Chio was called to make use of her healing quirk, but it was clear that it was too late. It was his idea to become heroes. Yuichiro's tirade continued. The metal chair frame was reduced to twisted scraps. I warned him it would be dangerous, but he didn't listen. He never listens. Well, he's going to listen now. Chio interrupted. Yuichiro glared at her with tears shining in his eyes. Your brother wants to see you. Yuichiro stared at her for a few more seconds before pushing past her to go into the hospital ward. Michiro looked smaller than usual. He smiled weakly when he saw his twin. Yuichiro stood by his bed and curled his hands into fists. Yui dash, Michiro spoke softly. It's okay. It's not okay. Yuichiro yelled back. This is anything but okay. He ignored the motions to lower his voice. I just don't understand, Yuichiro forced out, tears streaming down his face. I listened to your stupid suggestion this time. I did what you wanted. We became heroes. So why is this happening? It just happens, Michiro said softly, pain dancing in his eyes. But please don't be sad. I'm happy, because you are going to live dash. That's supposed to be you. You're supposed to live. Come on, these are supposed to be just flesh wounds for you, right? Walk it off. Yuichiro either didn't notice the tubes hooking his twin up to life support or chose to ignore them. Michiro chuckled through the pain. I wasn't blessed with Yuzui-san's physique. I'm going to die very soon. But, Yui, please, if you don't want to be a hero, you don't have to. Be what you want to dash. Yuichiro cut him off once more with a sob. I'll do it. I'll be a hero. I'll be a hero for you, Mui. The younger Takito twin smiled for the last time. Tengen Yuzui. Quirks score. He can use echolocation to read enemy movements, compressing them into bass sounds and expanding them as sound-based shockwaves. And first place goes to Tashinori Yagi. The golden-haired boy beamed as the medal was placed around his neck. The stadium burst into applause. He tried his best to remain humble about it, but honest pride brimmed from every corner. He had worked hard and he had earned this. Gran Torino ended that day's lesson with a reminder about upcoming internships. It was their final sports festival, and everyone had fought hard to make a good impression. The class began to file out, though one boy remained behind in his seat, painting his nails. The second-place medal hung around his neck. Yuzui, are you ready? Tashinori asked, packing up his bag and waiting for his friend. Almost, the other said, applying the final coat of polish and packing his own things. Tashinori and Tengen left the classroom together. The afternoon sun was peeking in through the windows. Thank you for a good match today, Tashinori said. You almost had me at one point. Nonsense, Tengen scoffed, ruffling Tashinori's unruly hair. Tengen was still considerably taller than Tashinori, though the gap had been shrinking. Believe me, I'm a flamboyant guy for whom praise is music to the ears, but dishonest compliments are anything but flamboyant. No, I really mean it. You're surprisingly fast, and your quirk allows you to predict my attacks with ease. Tengen seemed to accept the compliment this time. It was a good match. But I'll accept the loss this time. Besides, our medals go with our respective aesthetics, so at least it's not a fashion meltdown. They left school grounds, still walking together. I take it you have a plan for after school, Tengen brought up, taking out a piece of gum and sticking it in his mouth. For after we graduate, I mean. Toshinori nodded thoughtfully. I'm considering going to the States to get international experience first. An international debut. Sounds extra flamboyant. Toshinori smiled. He could appreciate Tengen's eccentricities. They often matched his own. Is flamboyant going to be your hero motto? It's already in your hero name. Tengen nodded. I'm thinking something like Max Flamboyance. He screamed the last part, making Toshinori jump back a bit in shock. Yeah, that one will make people remember me. You've got any ideas for your motto? Toshinori paused. I am here. To reassure people that they're safe, that I'll protect them. I will become a symbol of peace, a pillar for the world. Tengen scoffed, seemingly unimpressed. A singular pillar is bound to crack under all that stress. Why just one pillar? What makes you say that? Yagi, when you get to be my age, you gain some certain wisdom. Aren't you 4 months younger than me? Never mind that, Tengen said quickly. Back to the topic at hand, a singular pillar to support the entire world? A classic recipe for disaster. Would be pretty unflamboyant of you to fall from grace due to being overworked. You'd need more to redistribute the weight. You know, the kanji for pillar has 9 strokes. So 9's a good number. Also works if you throw in number symbolism. It sounds like you have been thinking about that for a while, Toshinori noted. Tengen nodded enthusiastically. And I know just the people for the job. Just have to find them first. The rest of the school year passed uneventfully, and soon Toshinori was on a plane to the States. He kickstarted his debut as All Might with great success. He made friends with David Shield. He got even stronger. He returned to Japan 4 years later, and his old class invited him to a reunion. He expected to see Tengen there. Instead, he got the news that the flamboyant hero had died in action not even a month earlier. He listened numbly as the others recounted the event. He saved so many people but dash. Sorry we didn't tell you right away. It's just still hard to believe dash. I was there at the scene, a girl with a speed quirk said. It's weird. I remember him saying, at least Iguro can't get on my case about retiring early this time. Toshinori grieved for not being there to help his friend, and vowed to become the pillar Tengen couldn't. When he met a pair of vigilantes who called themselves pillars at a rescue mission. Debrief, he failed to make the connection. Abanai Iguro. Quirk, snake speak. He can communicate with snakes. Mitsuri Kanroji. Quirk, eightfold. Her muscular density makes her up to 8 times stronger than the average person. Hebamai loved her grandparents. Grandpa Abanai doted on her and spoiled her rotten. He talked to the snakes in her hair, got her the most expensive jewelry for special occasions, taught her sword fighting. She inherited his rare right eye color. Grandma Mitsuri showered her in affection. She cooked fluffy pancakes for her, braided her hair, taught her the finest tricks of hand-to-hand combat. She inherited her slender build. In modern slang, her grandparents were a power couple. Hebamai remembered an occasion when a lowly house robber broke into her grandparents' house when she was staying the night. Abanai's trusty pet snake, or friend snake as he called it, alerted her grandfather to the thief's presence. Mitsuri knocked him out with a single punch. It was fortunately ruled as a case of self-defense. How did you and Grandma met? Hebamai asked Abanai one day when he was working. He hummed thoughtfully as if deciding to humor her. We met almost 500 years ago, in a different lifetime. Hebamai gasped in awe and jumped in place for him to continue. I suppose heroes is the right term, her grandfather continued after a moment. She was the kindest and most appealing woman I have ever met. We vowed that if we are ever reincarnated as humans that we would marry each other. And through every single lifetime our fates remained intertwined. And then you finally got married. Hebamai cheered. Yes, we did. Abanai's voice sounded strangely wistful. Mitsuri knocked on the door. Abanai, we have dinner scheduled with Himejima-san at 8 today. It seems it is time to go. We will see you soon, Hebamai, Abanai said, walking over to his wife. And then you'll tell more stories, right? Hebamai demanded. Sure, we'll tell you all the stories you want, Mitsuri promised. On their way to the dinner, a careless driver T-boned right into their car. Both of them were killed by the accident. Hebamai later discovered that their killer had a long-standing record, and she began to ponder if it really was an accident or not. She never figured out the answer. Hebamai often wondered if this lifetime would be considered a tragedy for her grandparents or not. Even after becoming a hero herself, she never figured out the answer. Jiomei Himejima. Quirks see-through. He can perceive another person's blood flow and pulse, painting a clear picture of them in his head. Jiomei wondered what this eccentric doctor could want, visiting his orphanage. He was preparing breakfast that morning when he received a call that one Kyudai Garaki wished to speak with him. He had heard of the man due to his vast influence in the field of quirk research. He was also a philanthropist, using his vast wealth to fund his own orphanages. For those reasons, Jiomei tentatively agreed to the meeting. He could sense from the doctor's pulse that he was old and not very physically fit. He also appeared to be quite short in contrast with Jiomei's giant frame. Ah, Mr. Himema, the doctor exclaimed, eagerly shaking his hand. I have heard many great tales about you. There was something off about this doctor. Still, Jiomei tucked those worries into the corner of his mind and pulled up a chair for the elderly man. What can I do for you? He asked. Garaki tapped his fingers against the chair arm. Your orphanage is well renowned for having one of the best quirk education programs for the youth. In many other institutions, there have been reports of high levels of quirk-based violence. Understandable, given the circumstances, but still. But under your care, those numbers are almost non-existent. Jiomei felt a few tears slip from his eyes. The children under his care were his pride and joy. He simply did his best to give them a good life under less than ideal circumstances. Still, Garaki wanted something, he could feel it. The compliment stuck out of place and hung awkwardly in the air. One of the kids walked past them with a pitter-patter of bare feet, chasing after a ball rolling across the ground. Garaki leaned forward. His pulse increased. I am very interested in the study of quirk evolution. I wish to ask for your permission to study the kids at this orphanage. The amount of control they display over their quirks at such a young age, the scientific knowledge it can reap. He reached for the child. Alarm bells blasted in Jiomei's head. There was something off about the doctor. His voice, ingenuine. His mannerisms, out of place. Pulse and heart rate, far too high. He was much older than he appeared to be. He couldn't let him near the children. Jiomei grabbed hold of Garaki's hand. Firmly enough for it to hurt, with just enough restraint to avoid breaking bones. I think we are done here, he said, voice far more threatening than anyone thought he was capable of. I'll have to decline your offer. Jiomei personally saw the doctor out the door. He called Kane and Shinobu that night, asking them to check the legitimacy of his strange visitor. A month later, simply a week before the two sisters were meant to report their findings, the orphanage mysteriously caught fire. Authorities suspected foul play, but could not prove anything. Jiomei single-handedly saved every orphan from the flames, running in and out of the building. That spelled his own end, though, as the amount of ash found in his lungs during the autopsy was enough to suffocate even a giant like him. Kane Kocho. Quirk, wisteria. She can cause wisteria to flower in her close vicinity. Shinobu Kocho. Quirk poison. She can secrete wisteria poison through her skin. Shinobu was quick to spot the young girl all by herself in the play area of the hospital. The girl had ebony black hair tied back in a braid and deep blue eyes. She looked oddly familiar in a strange way. The girl would play by tossing a stuffed rabbit toy into the air and catch it in thin air on its way down. A force field quirk? She asked with curiosity, sitting down next to the girl. The girl nodded vigorously. Upon closer inspection, a very thin blue wall formed beneath the toy on each descent, cushioning its fall. This child must have recently gotten her quirk and was experimenting. Are you waiting for your parents? Shinobu asked, scanning the crowd for people who could resemble the girl's parents. She nodded again. They're with a doctor. They need to make sure that the baby is okay. Ah, so her parents were expecting another child. Do you know if it's going to be a boy or girl? Shinobu continued to ask. Either way, you're going to be a big sister. That's a big responsibility. Shinobu thought of her own sister, passed on as of last year. It still stung deeply, but not as much as last time. Kane lived a long life this time, married a loving man and had an appealing child, so there was no sense of incompletion. And she had no physical thing to take her anger out on. Ironically enough, wisteria poisoning had destroyed Kane's immune system in the end. Do you work here? The girl asked in return, cradling the toy bunny to her chest. Sometimes, Shinobu said. I research medicine, and I needed to run some tests at the nearby facility. Nogata is the only place that had the exact materials I needed. So you're a doctor? The girl asked excitedly. I also want to be a doctor. That's an appealing dream, Shinobu said with an airy smile. Satako! It seemed to be her father calling because the girl jumped to her feet. It was nice to meet you, future doctor, Shinobu said. My name is Shinobu Kocho. I'm Satako Tomioka. Shinobu blinked. She recognized the surname. The visibly PRNT mother, the name. A certain water pillar awkwardly trying to empathize with her after Kane's death by telling her that he also lost an older sister. Well, best of luck, Dr. Tomioka. Shinobu told Satako as the child ran to rejoin her parents. It appears we'll have a chance to meet again, Tomioka-san. Or I suppose it's Tomioka-kun now. They did not get the chance to meet again. 5 years later, when Ju would have been only a child, Shinobu died of natural causes, a mixture of her increasing age and exposure to chemicals. Their paths crossed in another way. The medicine she crafted was used to save the lives of Ju's parents when they almost succumbed to illness. Ju Tomioka. Quirk dead calm. While in a state of complete calmness, any non-living object that comes within 2.5 meters of him can be turned into dust. Sanemi Shinazugawa. Quirk rare blood. His blood possesses the qualities of strong alcohol. Sanemi and Ju waved the 3 boys out the door. Only Izuku waved back. How did we get ourselves into this situation? Sanemi sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Looking after 3 brats just because they sound like people we care about dash. I don't think so, Ju cut him off gently. It might have started that way, but it's not just that anymore. We've acknowledged that they are not Sabito and Genya. So, the only logical conclusion is that we care about their well-being as their own individuals. Sappy again, Sanemi teased him. Ju felt a smile tug at the very corners of his mouth. Besides, I have to admit, it feels less lonely with them around. Though he didn't say it out loud, Sanemi was inclined to agree.